The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of Adrian Cole's penthouse office, spraying shards across imported Italian tile as his fiance's words hung in the air like poison. "You're just not rich enough, Adrian." Natalie's perfectly manicured hand dropped the engagement ring onto his desk with a hollow clink that would echo in his mind for months. Outside, the city glittered with thousands of lights, each one a reminder that somewhere out there, someone had more. More money, more power, more of whatever the hell made people like her tick. 6 months later, when that wedding invitation arrived with its sickeningly cheerful calligraphy, Adrian Cole made a decision that would change 2 lives forever. He was going to that wedding, and he wasn't going alone. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and stick around until the end, because what starts as revenge becomes something nobody saw coming. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive, the kind of paper stock that cost more per sheet than most people spent on groceries. Adrian stared at it for a full minute before his assistant Melissa cleared her throat from the doorway. "Mr. Cole, your 3 o'clock is here." He didn't look up. "Cancel it." "Sir, it's the Singapore investors. They flew in specifically." "I said cancel it." His voice came out flat, dead, the tone he'd been using for everything lately. Melissa hesitated, then retreated. The door clicked shut with the kind of careful quiet people used around the grieving, which was ridiculous. He wasn't grieving. You couldn't grieve something that never actually existed. Adrian slid one finger under the envelope flap, felt the paper tear with a whisper. Inside, embossed gold lettering announced the union of Natalie Marie Vaughn and Harrison Caldwell III. The date was circled in what he assumed was Natalie's handwriting. Below it, a note card. "Adrian. No hard feelings, I hope. Would love to see you there. After all, we'll always be friends, right? XO. Nat." He read it 3 times. Each time, something cold and sharp twisted deeper into his chest. "Daddy?" Adrian's head snapped up. His daughter Lily stood in the doorway, 7 years old, clutching her stuffed rabbit, dark curls wild around her face. She had her mother's eyes. Her real mother, who died when Lily was 2. Sometimes Adrian wondered if that's why Natalie had seemed so perfect at first, because she'd never have to live up to a ghost. "Hey, sweetheart." He shoved the invitation into his desk drawer, forced his face into something resembling a smile. "Thought you were with Carla. She's making dinner. I heard you say a bad word." "I didn't say any—" He stopped. He'd probably thought several. "You're right. I'm sorry." Lily patted across the office in her sock feet, hopped up into the leather chair across from his desk. The rabbit's worn ears flopped against her shoulder. "Are you sad about Miss Natalie again?" The question landed like a punch. Kids were like that. Surgical precision, no anesthetic. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I'm okay. Carla says Miss Natalie was mean." "Carla shouldn't—" Adrian sighed, rubbed his eyes. "It's complicated, Lily." "She made you cry." "I wasn't—" But he had been. Once. Late at night, after too much scotch, standing at the window watching the city breathe and thinking about how Natalie had looked at him in those final moments. Not angry, not sad, just indifferent, like he was a shirt that didn't fit anymore, easy to discard. "I don't like her," Lily announced with the absolute conviction of childhood. "You're the best daddy. You're smart and you make me laugh and you read all the voices in the stories different. If she doesn't want you, she's dumb." Adrian's throat tightened. "Thanks, Bug. Are you going to eat dinner?" Yeah, I'll be right there." Lily slid down from the chair, started toward the door, then turned back. "Daddy, when I grow up, I'm going to marry someone who thinks you're smart too, okay?" He managed a real smile that time. "Deal." After she left, Adrian pulled the invitation back out, stared at it until the gold lettering blurred. No hard feelings. Like hell. 3 weeks later, Adrian sat in his lawyer's office while Marcus Chen outlined the quarterly earnings with his usual efficiency. Numbers scrolled across the screen, hotels in Dubai, Singapore, New York, London. Revenue streams that would make most people's heads spin. "The Dubai property is underperforming," Marcus was saying. "I'd recommend—" "I'm going to Natalie's wedding." Marcus stopped mid-sentence. I'm sorry, what? The wedding. I'm going. Adrian. Marcus set down his tablet, turned in his chair. They'd known each other since college, which meant Marcus was one of maybe 3 people who could use that tone with him. Why would you do that to yourself? Because she invited me. And I'm not going to hide like some pathetic... Adrian stopped, jaw tight. I'm going. That's final. Okay. Marcus leaned back, studying him. You planning to go alone? I haven't thought about it. You should think about it. You show up solo. You look exactly how she wants you to look. Broken, still pining, can't move on. Marcus paused. You show up with someone else. The idea crystallized slowly, like ice forming on glass. That's insane, Adrian said. Maybe, but it's also effective. Marcus pulled up something on his tablet, turned it around. Dating service ads, escort agencies, tasteful ones, the kind that cost 5 figures for an evening. Could hire someone professional. They're discreet, experienced. No. The word came out harder than intended. I'm not doing that. Then what are you doing? Adrian didn't have an answer. The next evening, Adrian stayed late at the office. Not because he had work, he'd cleared his calendar, couldn't focus anyway, but because going home meant facing the empty penthouse, the 2 quiet rooms, the evidence of a life built for 2 that only held 1. Around 11, he finally gave up, grabbed his coat. The executive elevator was broken again, had been for a week, some part on back order. So he took the maintenance stairs down, pushed through the side door into the alley, and that's when he saw her. A woman sat against the brick wall about 20 feet away, surrounded by plastic bags and a cardboard box that looked like it might have once held a refrigerator. She had a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, and a book propped open on her knees, tilted toward the weak yellow glow of a streetlight. Adrian froze. He'd seen homeless people before. You couldn't live in a major city without seeing them, but something about this particular moment stopped him. Maybe it was how still she sat, completely absorbed in whatever she was reading. Maybe it was how young she looked, early 30s at most. Maybe it was just that he was tired and raw and looking for literally anything to think about besides that goddamn wedding invitation. He walked closer before he could talk himself out of it. She looked up when his shadow fell across her book. In the streetlight, her eyes were startling, clear green, sharp with intelligence, wary but not afraid. Sorry, Adrian said. I didn't mean to. It's fine. Her voice was quieter than he expected. Educated accent, the kind that came from good schools and family dinners with proper silverware. Did you need something? What was he doing? What are you reading? She held up the book. Jane Eyre. The cover was battered, spine cracked from multiple readings. Good choice, Adrian said, because his brain had apparently stopped working. It was free. A ghost of a smile. Library was throwing out old copies. Seemed wrong to let it go to waste. They looked at each other for a moment. Adrian became acutely aware that he was wearing a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, standing in an alley at 11 p.m., making small talk with a homeless woman about Victorian literature. The absurdity was almost funny. I'm Emily, she said finally. Adrian. Well, Adrian. Emily closed her book, set it carefully on top of a plastic bag. Unless you've got a spare apartment in your pocket, I'm guessing this is the part where you feel awkward and leave. I don't feel awkward. Liar. But she said it without malice, almost fondly, like they were old friends instead of strangers divided by about 100 tax brackets. Adrian should have left, should have nodded politely, walked to his car, driven home to his expensive empty apartment and his expensive empty life. Should have done literally anything except what came out of his mouth next. How would you like to make $10,000? Emily's expression didn't change for several seconds. Then, okay, what's the catch? No catch. I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for one night. Wedding, fancy venue, fancy people. You'd need to wear a dress, make small talk, look like you're enjoying my company. That's it. You're insane. Probably. Or a serial killer. Definitely not. Emily pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Why me? You could hire an actual escort or ask literally anyone who isn't living in a box. Because... Adrian stopped. Why her? Because I walked out that door and you were sitting here reading Jane Eyre in an alley. And that's either incredibly sad or incredibly hopeful, and I haven't figured out which yet. Both, Emily said. It's both. So? So this is the part where I should tell you to fuck off and find someone else to play dress-up with. She was quiet for a moment. But I'm guessing you already know I'm not going to do that. I'm hoping you won't. Emily looked at him for a long time. Adrian forced himself not to fidget under that steady green gaze. Finally, she picked up her book, stuffed it into one of the plastic bags, and stood up. She was shorter than he expected, maybe 5'6". The blanket slipped off her shoulders, and he saw layers of clothing underneath. Hoodie, flannel shirt, t-shirt. Practical. Smart. 10,000, she said. Up front. Half before and half after. And I want it in writing that this is just pretend. Nothing weird. No expectations. Done. And if you turn out to be a serial killer, I'm haunting you. Fair? Emily held out her hand. Adrian shook it. Her grip was firm despite the cold, despite everything. When's this wedding? She asked. 3 weeks. Jesus Christ. Emily laughed, short and sharp. Okay, what the hell? I'm in. Adrian's best friend Sophia showed up at his apartment the next morning with coffee and judgment. You did what? I hired someone to… I heard what you said. I'm trying to figure out if you've lost your mind or just your basic survival instincts. Sophia set down the coffee with more force than necessary. She was Adrian's oldest friend, a corporate attorney with exactly zero patience for bullshit. You picked up a random homeless woman in an alley and offered her money to pose as your girlfriend. When you say it like that, Miss, how else should I say it? Adrian, this is insane. You don't know anything about her. She could rob you. She could sell the story to tabloids. She won't. You don't know that. I know. Adrian stopped, trying to articulate something he didn't fully understand himself. I know she had 3 chances to tell me to go to hell last night, and she didn't. I know she negotiated like someone who's used to being screwed over and wants it in writing. I know she was reading classic literature in an alley instead of, I don't know, whatever you think homeless people should be doing. Sophia closed her eyes, pinched the bridge of her nose. You're doing this because of Natalie. I'm doing this because I'm tired of being the guy everyone pities. So hire an escort, someone professional, vetted, who knows how to handle themselves at events like this. I don't want professional, I want real, he almost said. I want someone Natalie won't expect. You want revenge. Adrian didn't answer. Sophia sighed, long and heavy. Where is she now, this Emily person? Hotel. I got her a room at the Meridian, gave her a credit card for essentials. She's meeting us here at noon. Us? I need your help, Soph. You're the only person I trust with this. Flattery will not… She stopped, looked at him, really looked. You're serious about this? Yeah. And you're not going to change your mind? No. Another sigh. Fine. But if this blows up in your face, I'm allowed to say I told you so at least 50 times. Deal. Yeah. Emily showed up at exactly noon, which surprised Adrian more than it should have. She was wearing the same layers from last night, but she'd clearly showered. Her dark hair was damp, pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. Still looked exhausted, but less like someone actively surviving and more like someone who'd gotten 6 hours of actual sleep. Nice place, she said, stepping into the penthouse. Her eyes tracked over the floor-to-ceiling windows, the art on the walls, the grand piano in the corner that Adrian's ex had insisted on buying even though neither of them played. Very tall, Sophia snorted. Adrian shot her a look. Emily, this is Sophia Blake, my best friend and attorney. Attorney. Emily's expression shuddered slightly. So this is where you tell me the contract has 17 hidden clauses and I accidentally agreed to donate a kidney. The contract is straightforward, Sophia said, handing over a folder. Payment terms, confidentiality agreement, clear boundaries about physical contact and expectations. Read it, take your time. If anything seems unclear, ask. Emily took the folder, sat down on the edge of the designer sofa like she might leave fingerprints. She read slowly, carefully. Adrian watched her lips move slightly, forming words. When she got to page 3, she frowned. This clause about public appearances, Does that mean you can make me do other events? No, Adrian said. Just this one wedding. That clause is standard protection in case photos end up in media, so you can't sue later for using your image. But I could sue if you use them for advertising or something. Yes. Emily nodded, kept reading. When she finished, she looked up at Sophia. Can I make changes? Depends on the changes. Here. Emily pointed to a paragraph. This says I can't discuss the arrangement with anyone. I want an exception for one person, my sister. She deserves to know where I am. Sophia looked at Adrian. He nodded. Done, Sophia said. Anyone else? That's it. Emily pulled a pen from her pocket, cheap ballpoint, probably from the hotel, and signed with quick, decisive strokes. Her handwriting was surprisingly elegant. Adrian signed opposite her. Sophia witnessed. Okay, Emily said. So now what? Now, Sophia said, standing up with a smile that was slightly terrifying in its efficiency, we transform you into someone who can walk into that wedding and make every person in the room wonder who the hell you are. Emily looked at Adrian. Is she always like this? Usually worse. Fantastic. A take. The transformation started with basics. Sophia took Emily shopping while Adrian handled work calls he'd been ignoring. When they came back 4 hours later, Emily looked shell-shocked. I now own more clothes than I've owned in the last 2 years combined, she announced, dropping shopping bags in the hallway, including something called a statement heel, which I'm pretty sure is a torture device. Did you get the green dress? Adrian asked. Sophia smiled. Oh, we got the green dress. Over the next week, Emily became a strange fixture in Adrian's life. She'd show up at the penthouse in the morning, still wearing her own clothes, still looking slightly uncomfortable with the whole situation, and spend hours with Sophia learning what Sophia called the performance. How to walk in heels without looking like a baby giraffe. How to make small talk with rich people who asked invasive questions disguised as friendliness. How to eat at formal dinners without using the wrong fork. How to dance. How to laugh at unfunny jokes. How to touch Adrian's arm in a way that looked natural instead of staged. Adrian watched sometimes from his office, pretending to work while Emily practiced walking across the living room in progressively taller shoes. She fell twice, swore creatively both times, then got back up and tried again. There was something stubborn in the set of her jaw that he recognized. The same look Lily got when she was trying to master something difficult. You don't have to torture yourself, he said during one of her breaks. Emily was sitting on the floor, rubbing her ankle. You could wear flats and look like the only person at a billionaire's wedding who couldn't handle heels. No thanks. She looked up at him. This whole thing works because I look like I belong there. If I show up in sensible shoes, everyone knows I'm playing dress up. You're overthinking it. I'm surviving it. Emily stood up, wobbled slightly, caught herself. There's a difference. That evening, after Sophia left, Emily stayed. She'd been doing that more often lately, finding excuses to linger, asking questions about the art on the walls or the books on Adrian's shelves. Adrian told himself it was just boredom, that she'd spent so long alone that any conversation was better than none. But sometimes he caught her looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Can I ask you something? Emily was standing at the window now, watching the city lights. Her reflection was ghostly in the glass. Sure. Why did she leave you, Natalie? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. She got a better offer. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He joined her at the window. Their reflections stood side by side, separated by inches and everything else. She left because someone else had more money, more status, more everything. I wasn't enough. That's bullshit. Adrian looked at her, surprised. Sorry, Emily said, but it is. You're sitting here in your fancy apartment feeling sorry for yourself because some woman chose money over you, and you think that means you weren't enough. But maybe it just means she was shallow. Maybe it means she didn't deserve you in the first place. You don't know anything about her. I know she threw away someone who's been nothing but decent to me, a literal stranger living in a box, because she wanted a bigger yacht or whatever the hell rich people compete over. Emily turned to face him fully. I know that when you offered me this deal, you could have made it creepy or conditional or weird, and you didn't. I know you have a kid who thinks you're the best thing in the world, and I know you're so busy being hurt that you can't see any of that. Adrian's throat felt tight. You finished? For now. They stood there in the growing dark, the city spreading out below them like a circuit board. Adrian thought about all the things he could say, defensive things, angry things, things that would push her away. Instead, he said, "Thank you." Emily smiled, small and real. "You're welcome." Back. 2 days before the wedding, Lily came home from school and found Emily in the living room, practicing her natural laugh with Sophia. "Who are you?" Lily asked, clutching her backpack. Emily stopped mid-laugh, looking suddenly vulnerable. I'm Emily. Are you Daddy's new girlfriend?" The room went very quiet. Adrian, who'd been in the kitchen, came out fast. "Lily, Emily is a friend," Emily finished. "Just a friend. Your dad and I are going to a party together." Lily studied her with the intense scrutiny only children could manage. "Do you like him?" "Lily," Adrian started. "I think your dad is very nice," Emily said carefully. "And I think you're very lucky to have him. He cries sometimes, at night. I hear him." "Lily, that's enough." Adrian's voice came out harder than he meant it. Lily's face crumpled slightly, and guilt stabbed through him. "I'm sorry, Bug. I didn't mean to. Can you go wash your hands? Carla made your favorite for dinner." Lily left, slower than necessary. When she was gone, Emily turned to Adrian. "I'm sorry. I didn't know she'd—" "It's fine." "It's not fine. She's worried about you. She's 7. She shouldn't have to worry about me." "Kids worry." Emily's voice was soft. "Especially kids who've already lost someone." Adrian looked at her sharply. "I didn't tell you. Sophia did. Not details, just that Lily's mom passed when she was young." Emily paused. "My mom died when I was 12. I spent years watching my dad pretend everything was fine, and it just made it worse. Kids aren't stupid. They know when you're hurting. So what am I supposed to do? Fall apart in front of her?" "No, but maybe stop pretending you're made of stone." Emily picked up her shoes, started toward the door. "I should go." "Emily." She stopped, hand on the doorknob. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're weak for crying. I think you're human, and that's a lot better than what Natalie sounds like." After she left, Adrian found Lily in her room, sitting on her bed with the stuffed rabbit. "I'm sorry I made you mad," she said quietly. Adrian sat down next to her, pulled her into his side. "You didn't make me mad, sweetheart. I'm dealing with some grown-up stuff, and sometimes that makes me grumpy. But that's not your fault, okay? Is Emily nice?" "Yeah, she's nice." "Are you going to marry her?" "What? No, Lily, it's not. But you like her, I can tell." Adrian opened his mouth to deny it, then stopped. Did he like Emily? "She was smart, yeah. Funny, stubborn as hell. Had a way of cutting through his bullshit that was either annoying or refreshing depending on his mood. Made him think about things differently. Made him feel less alone, even when they were just sitting in the same room not talking." "It's complicated," he said finally. "That's what you always say when the answer is yes." "When did you get so smart?" Lily grinned, leaning into him. "I learned from the best." Woke. The night before the wedding, Adrian couldn't sleep. He stood at his bedroom window at 2 a.m., watching the city and thinking about all the ways tomorrow could go wrong. Natalie would see through the act immediately. Emily would freeze up. The whole thing would backfire spectacularly, and he'd end up looking worse than if he'd just stayed home. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Still awake?" Adrian frowned, typed back. "Who is this?" "Emily. Sophia gave me your number in case of emergencies." "This isn't an emergency. I'm just nervous and can't sleep." He stared at the message for a moment, then called her. She picked up on the first ring. "Hi," she said. "Hi, you okay?" Define okay. A pause. "I'm sitting in this hotel room looking at that green dress and having a complete existential crisis about whether I can actually pull this off." "You can. You don't know that. I know you fell on your face 3 times learning to walk in heels and got back up every time. I know you memorized every detail of the fake backstory we created. I know you're smarter than half the people who'll be at that wedding and more interesting than all of them." Adrian surprised himself with the conviction in his voice. "You can do this, Emily." Silence on the other end. Then, "Why do you believe in me more than I believe in myself?" "Because I'm not looking at you through your own eyes. I'm looking at you through mine. And what do you see? The question felt dangerous. Adrian thought about lying, keeping it light. Instead, he told the truth. Someone extraordinary trying very hard to convince everyone she's ordinary. Emily's breath caught. Adrian, get some sleep, he said quickly. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Yeah, okay. Another pause. Thank you for this whole insane thing. Whatever happens tomorrow, it's been something. After they hung up, Adrian went back to bed. This time, he actually slept. The morning of the wedding dawned cold and bright. Adrian picked Emily up from the hotel at 10. When she opened the door, he forgot how to breathe. The green dress fit her perfectly. Elegant, expensive, with a neckline that was sophisticated without being too revealing. Her hair was styled in soft waves, makeup subtle but effective. But it wasn't the transformation that stopped him. It was the way she stood, straight-backed and chin up, wearing confidence like armor, even though he could see her hands shaking slightly. Well? Emily did a small turn. Do I look like someone who belongs on a billionaire's arm? You look beautiful, stunning, like everything he hadn't known he was looking for. Perfect. Liar. But I'll take it. She grabbed a small clutch, stepped into the hallway. Let's go break some hearts. The drive to the venue was quiet. Adrian kept stealing glances at Emily, watching her stare out the window at the passing city. When they hit traffic, she turned to him. Last chance to back out, she said. We could turn around right now, you could wire me the money, and we'd both forget this ever happened. Do you want to back out? I asked you first. Adrian thought about it, really thought. He could still cancel, could claim illness, send Natalie a gift card and a polite note. Could go home, get drunk, and spend the rest of his life wondering what might have happened if he'd just been brave enough to show up. No, he said. I don't want to back out. Emily nodded, turned back to the window. Good, neither do I. They pulled up to the cathedral at 11:30. It was massive, all soaring Gothic architecture and stained glass. The kind of venue that cost more to rent for a day than most people made in a year. Guests were already arriving, designer suits, couture dresses, enough diamonds to fund a small country. Adrian's stomach twisted. Hey! Emily's hand found his, squeezed once. Her palm was warm. We've got this. Yeah? Yeah. She smiled, and for a moment the nervousness dropped away and she just looked fierce. Let's go show your ex what she gave up. They walked in together, and everything changed. The cathedral's interior was even more overwhelming than the outside. Vaulted ceilings that seemed to stretch into eternity. Massive floral arrangements that probably cost more than a car. And everywhere, the quiet hum of wealth. The kind of money that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew it was there. Emily's grip on Adrian's arm tightened for just a second. He felt it through the fabric of his suit jacket. Breathe, he murmured, low enough that only she could hear. I am breathing. This is me breathing. But she was smiling when she said it, that sharp humor he'd come to recognize as her default defense mechanism. They made their way down the center aisle. Heads turned. Adrian felt the weight of 100 conversations pausing mid-sentence, felt the assessment in every glance. He'd been to enough of these events to know exactly what people were thinking. Who is she? Where did she come from? Is she new money? Old money? No money pretending? Let them wonder. A woman in a pale pink dress, someone Adrian vaguely recognized from Natalie's social circle, stepped directly into their path. Her smile was bright and sharp as a knife. Adrian, I wasn't sure you'd actually come. Her eyes slid to Emily with poorly disguised curiosity. And who is this? This is Emily Carter, Adrian said smoothly. Emily, this is Victoria something or other. We met at a charity function once. Victoria Ashford Chen, the woman corrected, her smile freezing slightly. And it's lovely to meet you, Emma. Emily, Emily corrected, her own smile perfectly pleasant. Easy mistake, I have one of those faces. Of course. Victoria's eyes were already cataloging details. The dress, the shoes, the way Emily stood. So how did you two meet? I don't think I've seen you at any of the usual events. That's because I don't go to the usual events, Emily said. I find them boring. Adrian nearly choked. Victoria's expression went through several interesting transformations. I see, Victoria said finally. Well, I suppose not everyone enjoys watching rich people compete over who has the most uncomfortable shoes and the least interesting things to say. Emily's tone was light, conversational. No, not everyone does. Victoria made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been outrage. Excuse me, I need to find my seat. When she was gone, Adrian looked at Emily. Boring. Was I supposed to lie? Emily's eyes were bright with something between nervousness and exhilaration. Besides, you told me to be natural. That was me being natural. Remind me never to bring you to a UN peace summit. Deal. They found their seats 3 rows from the front, close enough to be noticed, far enough back to avoid the immediate family drama. Adrian settled into the pew, very aware of Emily beside him. She was sitting perfectly straight, hands folded in her lap, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. You okay? He asked quietly. Define okay? Fair point. The organ music swelled. Conversations dropped to whispers. Adrian felt his stomach tighten as the wedding party began their procession down the aisle. Bridesmaids in champagne-colored dresses, groomsmen in matching tuxedos, everything coordinated within an inch of its life. And then Natalie appeared at the back of the cathedral. She looked exactly like she always had. Blonde, beautiful, perfect. Her dress was a custom creation that probably had a waiting list and a price tag with too many zeros. Diamonds sparkled at her throat and ears. She was smiling that practiced smile he'd seen 1,000 times, the one that said, "Look at me. Look at what I have. Look at what you'll never have." Their eyes met across the crowded cathedral. For a moment, just a moment, her smile faltered. Her gaze cut to Emily, then back to Adrian, and something flickered across her face. Surprise? Anger? He couldn't tell. Then she was walking again, gliding down the aisle toward Harrison Caldwell III, who waited at the altar looking exactly like what he was, old money, older morals, and the kind of man who thought a checkbook solved problems. Emily leaned close to Adrian, her breath warm against his ear. Is that him? The guy she left you for? Yeah. He looks like someone who owns multiple yachts and doesn't know the names of anyone who works for him. That's actually pretty accurate. I'm good at reading people. Emily paused. It's a survival skill. The ceremony began. Adrian tried to focus on anything except the woman at the altar, saying vows to a man who probably loved her about as much as he loved his stock portfolio. He studied the stained glass windows, counted the flower arrangements, thought about quarterly earnings reports and hotel occupancy rates, and literally anything that would stop him from dwelling on the fact that 6 months ago he'd imagined himself standing where Harrison was standing. You're doing the thing, Emily whispered. What thing? The thing where you look like you're made of stone. Your jaw's so tight I'm worried your teeth are going to crack. Adrian forced himself to relax slightly. Better? Marginally. She shifted and her shoulder pressed against his. Just barely, but enough that he felt it. Want to know what I'm thinking about? What? Whether they have those little sandwich things at the reception, the fancy ones with the crust cut off. I haven't had one of those since... She stopped. In a while. Something about the admission made Adrian's chest ache. I'll make sure you get some. You don't have to... I know. They sat in silence after that, watching 2 people who didn't love each other promise forever. When it came time for the kiss, Adrian looked away, found himself staring at his own hands instead, at the pale line on his left ring finger where an engagement ring had sat for 6 months before Natalie handed it back. Emily's hand covered his, just for a second, just long enough for him to feel the warmth of it, before she pulled away and started clapping with everyone else. The recessional was mercifully quick. Natalie and Harrison swept back down the aisle in a shower of rose petals and camera flashes. Adrian caught one more glimpse of Natalie's face as she passed their row. This time, she was definitely looking at Emily, and she definitely wasn't smiling. Cocktail hour, Adrian said, standing. Think you can handle an hour of people asking invasive questions while pretending to be polite? I literally lived on the street for 2 years, Emily said, taking his offered arm. I can handle anything. The reception venue was attached to the cathedral through a covered walkway lined with more flowers. Inside, the ballroom was a study in understated excess. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids everywhere, tables draped in silk. A string quartet played something classical and forgettable. Waiters circulated with champagne and those little sandwich things Emily had mentioned. Adrian grabbed 2 glasses of champagne, handed one to Emily. She stared at it like it might bite. "I don't really drink," she said. "You don't have to. Just hold it. Gives you something to do with your hands." "Smart." She took the glass, sipped carefully, made a face. "That's terrible. It's $500 a bottle." Then someone got ripped off. Adrian laughed. Actually laughed, and several people turned to look. He couldn't remember the last time he'd laughed at one of these things. Usually he just endured them, made the appropriate small talk, and left as soon as socially acceptable. Adrian Cole, a man's voice, hearty and loud. Adrian turned to find Richard Pemberton, one of Harrison's business associates. They'd met a few times at industry conferences. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Richard, good to see you. And who's this lovely creature?" Richard's eyes were already on Emily, the kind of look that made Adrian's hands tighten into fists. "Emily Carter," she said before Adrian could answer. "I'm Adrian's girlfriend," Adrian finished. The word felt strange in his mouth. Too real. "Girlfriend," Emily echoed, her smile perfect and practiced. "Nice to meet you." "The pleasure's all mine." Richard took her hand, held it too long. "So what do you do, Emily? Let me guess. Model? Actress?" "Conceptual artist," Emily said without missing a beat. It was the backstory they'd created, vague enough to be believable, pretentious enough to shut down follow-up questions. Fascinating. What kind of concepts? The kind that explore the intersection of wealth, poverty, and the arbitrary nature of value systems in late-stage capitalism. Emily took a sip of champagne, still smiling. "Very niche. Most people don't get it." Richard blinked. "I see. Emily's work was featured in a gallery in Berlin last year," Adrian added, because why not commit to the bit? "Very avant-garde." "Berlin," Richard repeated. "Wonderful city." "Have you been?" Emily asked. "Well, no, but then you wouldn't know, would you?" She patted his arm gently. "Excuse us, I see someone Adrian needs to talk to." She steered Adrian away before Richard could respond. When they were safely across the room, Adrian looked at her. "The intersection of wealth and poverty? I'm improvising. Also, it's not wrong." Emily grabbed one of those sandwich things from a passing waiter, ate it in 2 bites. "Oh my God, that's good. Take as many as you want." "Is that permission to embarrass you by eating everything in sight?" "Yes." Emily grinned, grabbed 3 more sandwiches, and somehow managed to make it look elegant. "I'm starting to like this fake girlfriend thing." They circulated through the room. Adrian introduced Emily to people whose names he barely remembered, watched her handle each conversation with a combination of charm and barely concealed mockery that somehow worked. She was good at this, he realized, good at reading people, at knowing exactly what to say to make them comfortable or uncomfortable, depending on what the situation required. "You're enjoying this," he said during a brief moment alone. "Maybe a little." Emily was scanning the room. "Is it bad that I kind of want to see her face when she realizes you brought someone?" "Probably, but I want to see it too, so we're both going to hell." "At least we'll have company." The ballroom doors opened. The wedding party entered to applause, Natalie and Harrison at the center of it all. They made their way to the head table, waving like royalty. When everyone was seated, Harrison stood to give a speech about love and partnership and other things he clearly didn't understand. Adrian wasn't listening. He was watching Natalie scan the room, saw the exact moment her eyes landed on their table, saw her expression shift from practiced happiness to something harder. She said something to one of her bridesmaids. The bridesmaid looked over at Adrian and Emily, whispered back. Natalie's jaw tightened. "She's noticed us," Emily murmured. "Yeah." "She looks pissed." "Yeah." "Good." Dinner was a 7-course affair that felt like it lasted 7 hours. Adrian picked at his food, hyper-aware of Emily beside him. She ate slowly, carefully, like someone who'd learned not to waste anything. When the server brought out the main course, some kind of beef dish with a French name, she stared at it for a long moment before cutting into it. "You okay?" Adrian asked quietly. "This is more food than I used to eat in a week," she said, just as quiet. "I'm fine, just adjusting." Adrian didn't know what to say to that. How could he? He'd never had to worry about food, never had to choose between eating and anything else. The gulf between their experiences felt impossible to cross. But then Emily looked at him and smiled, small and real, and said, "Stop looking at me like I'm going to break. I'm tougher than I look." "I know you are." "Do you?" "Yeah," Adrian said. "I really do." Across the table, another guest, a woman in her 50s with too much Botox and not enough self-awareness, leaned forward. "So, Emily, Adrian mentioned you're an artist. How did you two meet?" Emily didn't hesitate. "He literally swept me off my feet." "How romantic!" "It was more clumsy than romantic," Adrian said, playing along. "I wasn't watching where I was going and nearly knocked her over." "Outside a coffee shop," Emily added. "I dropped my sketchbook and he helped me pick it up. Saw my work and insisted on buying me coffee so we could talk about it." "And you've been together ever since?" 3 months, Emily said. The lie came out smooth, practiced. "Best 3 months of my life." She looked at Adrian when she said it, and for a second, just a second, it didn't feel like a lie. The woman cooed appropriately, then turned to interrogate the couple next to her. Emily let out a breath, took a long sip of water. "That was close," she muttered. "You handled it perfectly." "I'm a good liar." "Had a lot of practice." Before Adrian could ask what she meant, music started playing. The DJ announced the first dance. Natalie and Harrison took the floor, moved through a choreographed routine that had clearly been rehearsed within an inch of its life. Everyone watched and clapped at the appropriate moments. When it was over, the DJ invited other couples to join them. Adrian felt his stomach drop. "We should dance," Emily said. "We don't have to—" "Yes, we do. Everyone's watching to see if you're pathetic and alone. Let's prove them wrong." She stood, held out her hand. "Come on, billionaire. Show me what you've got." Adrian took her hand, let her lead him onto the dance floor. The music was something slow and classical. He put one hand on her waist, took her other hand in his. She was warm, solid, real. "I'm terrible at this," Emily admitted as they started to move. "You're doing fine. I'm stepping on your feet. I'm wearing shoes that cost more than—" Adrian stopped. "Sorry. It's okay. They probably do cost more than my entire previous wardrobe." Emily looked up at him. They were close enough that he could see the individual shades of green in her eyes. "You can say it. I'm not made of glass." "I know. I just—" "What? Didn't want to remind her? Didn't want to feel guilty?" "I don't want to be that guy." "What guy?" "The rich asshole who doesn't understand anything outside his bubble." Emily was quiet for a moment, let him turn her in a slow circle. "You want to know the difference between you and most rich people?" "What?" "You actually give a shit. Maybe too much, but that's better than not at all." She stumbled slightly, caught herself. "Most people in this room? They don't even see the invisible people. The waiters, the valets, the people who make their lives run smoothly. They're furniture. But you see them. I can tell." "How?" "You said thank you to the valet earlier. You made eye contact with our server. Small things, but they matter." Adrian didn't know what to say to that. They danced in silence for a while, moving in slow circles while around them other couples did the same. Somewhere across the floor, he caught a glimpse of Natalie watching them. He waited for the familiar twist of hurt, the anger. It didn't come. Instead, he felt nothing. Or not nothing, but not what he expected. He looked at Natalie and saw a stranger wearing a face he used to know. Someone who'd walked away from something real in favor of something shiny. And he realized, quite suddenly, that he didn't want her back. He didn't want any of this. What he wanted was standing right in front of him, wearing a borrowed dress and stolen confidence, making him feel more alive than he had in months. The realization hit him like a truck. "Adrian?" Emily was looking at him with concern. "You okay? You stopped moving." "Yeah, sorry, just thinking." "About?" "About you. About how I started this whole thing for all the wrong reasons and somewhere along the way they became the right ones. About how I don't know what happens after tonight, but I know I don't want this to end. About how I'm glad I didn't come alone," he said instead. Emily smiled, genuine and surprised. "Yeah?" "Yeah." The song ended. Another one started, something faster, more modern. Around them, couples began to move differently. Emily looked uncertain. "We can sit this one out," Adrian offered. "Or—" Emily's expression shifted to something mischievous. "Or you could watch me make a complete fool of myself." "Emily." But she was already moving, had already found the beat, and she could dance, really dance. Not the stiff formal movements they'd just been doing, but something fluid and natural, like the music was just an extension of her body. People noticed, started to watch. Emily didn't care. Or maybe she did care and was doing it anyway, claiming space in a room full of people who probably thought she didn't belong. She spun, laughed, pulled Adrian in when he was just standing there like an idiot. "Come on," she said. "Live a little." So he did. He let himself move, let himself look ridiculous, let himself not care about the dozens of eyes on them. Emily laughed when he attempted something that might have been dancing, grabbed his hands and showed him the rhythm. The song changed, something with a bass line that vibrated through the floor. Emily's movements got bigger, more confident. She was drawing a crowd now, people forming a circle, pulling out phones, recording. Someone whooped. Someone else started clapping along to the beat. And then, because the universe had a sick sense of humor, a K-pop song came on. Emily's face lit up. "Oh, I know this one!" What happened next would probably end up on social media within the hour. Emily moved like she'd been born to perform, like every hardship had been practiced for this exact moment. Sharp movements, perfect timing, and an energy that was infectious. People were definitely filming now. Someone pushed Harrison out of the way to get a better angle. Adrian stood at the edge of the circle, watching this woman who'd been invisible for years become the center of attention in a room full of people who thought they mattered. Emily caught his eye mid-spin, grinned at him, and he felt something in his chest crack open. He was so completely screwed. The song ended. Emily took a dramatic bow while people applauded and cheered. Her face was flushed, her hair slightly messy, and she looked more beautiful than anyone in that entire overpriced venue. She made her way back to Adrian, slightly out of breath. "So," she said, "think Natalie noticed?" Adrian glanced over at the head table. Natalie's expression could have curdled milk. Harrison was staring at Emily with poorly disguised interest. Several of the bridesmaids were whispering frantically. "Yeah," Adrian said. "I think she noticed." "Good." Emily grabbed his hand. "Come on, I need air." They escaped through a side door onto a terrace that overlooked the city. The night air was cold, sharp against skin that was too warm from dancing. Emily leaned against the railing, tilted her face up to the sky. There were barely any stars visible through the light pollution, but she looked anyway. "Thank you," Adrian said. "For what?" "For being here. For doing this. For..." He gestured vaguely back toward the ballroom. "All of it. You're paying me $10,000. I should be thanking you." It stopped being about the money somewhere around the second time you told someone their champagne was terrible. Emily laughed, soft and surprised. "When did you get funny?" "I'm not funny. I'm honest." "Same thing, sometimes." She was quiet for a moment, still staring at the not stars. "Can I tell you something?" "Anything." "This is the first time in 2 years I've felt like a real person. Not someone to look away from, not someone to pity or ignore. Just a person." She turned to face him. "And I know it's fake. I know this all ends tomorrow when you wire the rest of the money and I go back to figuring out my life. But tonight? Tonight I got to be someone who mattered, someone who existed, and that's worth more than the money." Adrian's throat felt tight. "Emily, don't." She held up a hand. "Don't say whatever you're about to say. Not yet. Let me have tonight without thinking about tomorrow." So he didn't say it. Didn't say that she'd mattered from the moment she'd looked up at him in that alley with sharp green eyes and sharper wit. Didn't say that tomorrow didn't have to be the end of anything. Didn't say that he'd spent weeks telling himself this was just a transaction when it had stopped being that the first time she made him laugh. Instead, he took off his jacket and draped it around her shoulders. She pulled it tight, buried her nose in the collar. "Smells expensive," she said. "It is expensive. Everything about your life is expensive. Yeah. Must be exhausting." Adrian thought about that, about the endless competition, the constant measurement of worth in dollars and zeros, the way people looked at him and saw a bank account before they saw a person. "Sometimes," he admitted, "most of the time. You ever think about just stopping? Selling everything, moving somewhere quiet, living like a normal person? I have a daughter. Bring her with you. I bet she'd love somewhere with trees and clean air, somewhere she could be a kid instead of a rich man's kid. You don't know anything about raising children, No, Emily agreed. But I know about being one, and I know which kind of parent I would have wanted. Before Adrian could respond, the terrace door opened. Sophia stepped out, her expression carefully neutral. There you are, she said. Natalie's looking for you. Adrian's stomach sank. Why? Because her wedding just became the Emily show, and she's not happy about it. Sophia looked at Emily, something like approval in her eyes. You were amazing in there, by the way. I got at least 30 texts asking who you are. What did you tell them? Emily asked. That you're a conceptual artist from Berlin, and Adrian's the luckiest man in the room. Sophia's smile was sharp. Also that you're very private and don't do interviews. Perfect. Natalie's heading this way, Sophia said. Fair warning. She slipped back inside. Adrian and Emily looked at each other. Ready? He asked. No, but let's do it anyway. The terrace door opened again. Natalie stepped out, still wearing her wedding dress, still perfect except for the tightness around her mouth. She took in the scene, Adrian, Emily wearing his jacket, standing close together in the dark. Adrian, she said, can we talk? Alone? Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Emily. Natalie's eyes flashed. Fine. Who is she, really? I told you, my girlfriend. Bullshit. I've never seen her before, none of my friends know her, and she conveniently appeared right before my wedding? Natalie took a step closer. What is this, Adrian? Some kind of pathetic revenge scheme? Pathetic, Emily repeated. That's an interesting choice of word coming from someone who dumped a good man for a bigger bank account. I don't know who you think you are. Someone who sees you clearly. Someone who knows exactly what you are. Emily's voice was calm, steady. You're scared. Excuse me? You're scared that Adrian moved on, that he's happy without you, that you made the wrong choice and you're stuck with it now. Emily stepped forward, drawing herself up to her full height. Well, here's the truth. He is better off without you. And yeah, maybe I'm not from your world. Maybe I'm not rich or connected or whatever the hell you value. But at least I'm real. At least I know how to care about someone for who they are, not what they have. Natalie's face had gone pale. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Emily turned to Adrian. I'm going to go. I think we've accomplished what we came here to do. She walked past Natalie, head high, and disappeared into the ballroom. Adrian and Natalie stood alone on the terrace. The woman he'd almost married. The woman he'd thought he loved. You hired her, didn't you? Natalie said quietly. This whole thing is fake. Does it matter? It matters because you're trying to make me jealous with someone who isn't even real. She's more real than you ever were. Adrian headed for the door, then stopped. I came here tonight thinking I wanted revenge, thinking I wanted you to see what you gave up. But you know what? I don't care anymore. You made your choice. I hope it makes you happy. Adrian, congratulations on your wedding, Natalie. He left her there, went to find Emily. She was in the coat check area, already handing over her ticket. Hey, he said. Hey. She wouldn't look at him. You were incredible in there. I was rude. You were honest. There's a difference. Adrian waited until she met his eyes. Emily, what you said, I meant it. She took a breath. All of it. The coat check attendant returned with Emily's things, the same threadbare jacket she'd been wearing that first night, the plastic bag with her book. The contrast was jarring. In a few hours, she'd gone from looking like she belonged in this world to clearly not belonging at all. Let me take you home, Adrian said. I don't have a home, not yet. But she was smiling when she said it, sad and small. The hotel's fine. They walked to the car in silence. The driver opened the door, but Emily hesitated before getting in. Adrian, She stopped, started again. This was supposed to be simple. In and out, get the money, move on. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being simple. I know. So what do we do now? Adrian looked at her, really looked. At the borrowed dress and the real courage. At the sharp intelligence and the deeper hurt. At everything she was and everything she'd survived. I don't know, he said honestly, but I don't want tonight to be the end. Emily's eyes searched his face. You're sure? Because once you walk away from this, from me, it's easier for both of us. We can go back to our separate lives and pretend this was just, I don't want easier, Adrian interrupted. I want real. The words hung between them. Emily's breath caught. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They got in the car. The driver pulled away from the cathedral, away from the lights and the music and the world that had felt both real and fake at the same time. Emily sat pressed against the far door, still wearing Adrian's jacket over the green dress, staring out at the city passing by in streaks of neon and shadow. Adrian wanted to say something, anything, but every word that came to mind felt wrong, too big or too small for whatever was happening between them. So, Emily said finally, not looking away from the window, what happens now? Do we go back to your place and have an awkward conversation about feelings? Do you drop me at the hotel and we pretend tonight was just business? Do we... I don't know. Adrian ran a hand through his hair, felt it stick up at weird angles from the gel that had been perfect hours ago. I didn't plan this far ahead. You planned an entire fake relationship, but not what happens after. The fake relationship was supposed to end at the wedding. This... He gestured between them. This wasn't part of the plan. Emily finally turned to look at him. In the dim light of the car, her face was all shadows and angles. What is this exactly? I don't know, Adrian said again. He felt like an idiot repeating himself, but it was true. I know what I want it to be. I'm just not sure if I have the right to want that. What do you want? The question felt loaded. Adrian thought about lying, making it easier for both of them. Instead, he said, more. I want more time with you, more conversations, more everything. Emily's expression did something complicated. Adrian, in a week, I'm going to be looking for a job and an apartment I can actually afford. You're going to go back to running your empire and raising your daughter and living your life. The gap between those two things isn't something we can just ignore. Why not? Because it matters. Money matters. Stability matters. I've been on the street, Adrian. I know what happens when you build something on a foundation that isn't solid. It crumbles. So we make it solid. How? She wasn't angry, just tired, like she'd had this argument with herself already and lost. How do we make this work when our entire lives are different? When I don't fit in your world and you sure as hell don't fit in mine, then we build a new one. Adrian knew he sounded desperate. He probably was desperate. Emily, I'm not asking you to fit into my life exactly as it is. I'm asking if you want to figure out what a life could look like with both of us in it. The car stopped at a red light. Someone crossed the street in front of them. A kid, maybe 16, wearing too thin clothes for the weather. Emily watched them disappear into the night. 6 months ago, I was that kid, she said quietly. Maybe not 16, but just as lost, just as invisible. And now I'm sitting in a car that costs more than I made in 5 years, wearing a dress I could never afford, talking to a billionaire about building a life together. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You see how insane that sounds, right? Yeah, I also see how it doesn't change the fact that when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I have in years. Emily closed her eyes. Don't say things like that. Why not? Because it makes me hope. And hope is dangerous when you've got nothing to back it up with. You have me backing it up. For how long? Her eyes opened, pinned him in place. Until you realize I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners? Until your friends start asking too many questions about where I came from? Until Lily asks why her dad's dating someone who used to sleep in alleys? Lily wouldn't care about that. She's 7. She would absolutely care about that. Emily pulled the jacket tighter around herself. And even if she didn't, everyone else would. Your board members, your investors, your everyone. They'd look at me and see exactly what Natalie saw tonight. Someone who doesn't belong. Natalie's opinion doesn't matter to me anymore. But other people's opinions do matter. They have to. You're not just some guy, Adrian. You're a public figure. Everything you do reflects on your business, your reputation, your daughter's future. Dating the homeless woman you picked up in an alley, that's not a good look. Adrian felt something cold settle in his chest. Is that really what you think? That I care more about my image than about you? I think you care about being smart. And this, us, isn't smart. Maybe I'm tired of being smart. You have a kid. You don't get to be tired of being smart. The car pulled up in front of the hotel. The same place Adrian had gotten Emily a room weeks ago, when this was still just a transaction. The doorman moved to open Emily's door, but she held up a hand, keeping him back. "Thank you for tonight," she said to Adrian. "Really, it was amazing. I got to feel like someone who mattered, and I won't forget that." "Emily, but I think we both know this is where it ends. You go back to your life, I go back to mine. Clean break, no mess, no regrets?" "I'd regret it." The words came out harder than Adrian intended. "I'd regret letting you walk away when I know that there's something here. Knowing something exists and being able to keep it are different things." Emily's hand was on the door handle. "I'm not Natalie. I won't stick around just because you have money. And I won't leave just because someone else has more. But I also won't be the project you take on to prove you're not shallow. I've been someone's charity case before. It doesn't end well." "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" Adrian didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound insane. What was he supposed to say? That he'd fallen for her intelligence, her humor, her refusal to be impressed by things that usually impress people? That somewhere between the fake relationship and the real conversations, he'd stopped being able to imagine his life without her in it? "It's real," he said finally. "Whatever else it is, it's real." Emily looked at him for a long moment. Then she leaned over, kissed his cheek, quick, soft, there and gone. "Goodbye, Adrian." She was out of the car before he could stop her, moving fast across the sidewalk and through the hotel doors. Adrian watched her go, watched her disappear into the lobby, watched the doorman close the door behind her with careful precision. "Sir?" The driver's voice was careful. "Where to?" Adrian stared at the hotel entrance. He could follow her, could chase her down, make some grand gesture, convince her to give this a chance. But she'd asked him not to, and respecting what she wanted felt more important than what he wanted. "Home," he said. The drive back to his penthouse took 30 minutes. Adrian spent all of them staring out the window, replaying every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out where he'd gone wrong. By the time they pulled up to his building, he still didn't have an answer. Carla was waiting in the living room when he walked in. She took one look at his face and stood up. "That bad?" she asked. "Worse." "You want to talk about it?" "No? Is Lily asleep?" "Has been for hours. She asked about you earlier. Asked if you were with Emily." Adrian's chest tightened. "What did you tell her?" "That you were at a party and would see her in the morning." Carla grabbed her purse. "For what it's worth, whatever happened tonight, you look more alive than you have in months. Even miserable, you look more alive." "That's not comforting." "Wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be true." She headed for the door, then stopped. "You know the difference between you and most rich men?" "What?" "You actually have a heart. Don't forget to use it." After she left, Adrian poured himself a scotch he didn't drink, stood at the window overlooking the city, and tried not to think about Emily alone in that hotel room. Tried not to wonder if she was regretting walking away. Tried not to check his phone every 30 seconds to see if she'd texted. She hadn't. He finally went to bed around 3 a.m., lay there staring at the ceiling, and didn't sleep at all. Morning came anyway. Lily woke him up by jumping on the bed at 7:30, full of energy and questions. "Did you have fun at the party?" "Yeah, Bug. I had fun." "Was Emily there?" Adrian's throat felt tight. "Yeah, she was there." "Is she coming over today?" "I don't think so." Lily studied him with those too perceptive eyes. "Did you fight?" "Not exactly." "Then why do you look sad?" "It's complicated." "You always say that." Lily flopped down next to him, stared at the ceiling too. "Carla says Emily is nice. She says you smile different when Emily's around." "Different how?" "Like you mean it." Adrian turned his head to look at his daughter, 7 years old and already seen things he'd tried to hide. "I do mean it." "Then why isn't she coming over?" "Because sometimes people don't fit together even when you want them to." "That's dumb." "Yeah," Adrian agreed. "It really is." They lay there for a while, father and daughter, staring at nothing. Finally, Lily said, "You should call her. It's not that simple." "Why not?" "How did you explain class differences and social pressure and the fear of not being good enough to a 7-year-old who still believed love could fix everything?" "Because she thinks I'm only interested because she's different from other people I know. And I don't know how to prove that's not true." "Do you love her?" The question hit Adrian like a fist. Did he love Emily? He'd known her for 3 weeks. Most of that time had been pretend, practice for a performance. But somewhere in between the fake smiles and the rehearsed conversations, something real had grown. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I think I could." "Then tell her that." "It's not that easy." "Why do grown-ups always make things harder than they need to be?" Lily sat up. "You like her. She likes you. You should be together. Easy." "She doesn't think it would work." "Did you ask her?" "Not exactly." "Then how do you know?" Lily hopped off the bed. "I'm going to go eat cereal. You should call Emily." She left. Adrian stayed in bed for another 10 minutes, then gave up on sleep entirely. He showered, dressed, made coffee he didn't drink, checked his phone. Still nothing from Emily. Sophia called around noon. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I've been better." "Want to tell me what happened after you left?" Adrian gave her the short version. Sophia listened without interrupting, which meant it was bad enough that she was actually concerned. "So you let her go," Sophia said when he finished. "She asked me to." "And since when do you do what people ask?" "Since she made it clear she didn't want me chasing her." "Or since you're scared that if you push, she'll reject you for real and you won't be able to pretend it's just about different worlds." Adrian was quiet. "I thought so," Sophia said. "Adrian, I've known you for 15 years. I've seen you negotiate million-dollar deals, fire executives twice your age, build an empire from almost nothing. But when it comes to your personal life, you fold like a cheap card table." "Thanks for the support." "I'm being supportive by telling you the truth. You want this woman? Go get her. Stop hiding behind excuses about class differences and what's practical. Life's too short for practical. She doesn't want to be someone's project. Then don't make her a project. Make her a partner." "How?" "I don't know. You're supposed to be the genius businessman. Figure it out." Sophia paused. "Also, you should probably check social media." "Why?" "Because the video of Emily dancing went viral. Like, actually viral. 3 million views in 12 hours viral." Adrian's stomach dropped. "What?" "Someone posted it with the caption, 'Mystery Woman Steals Show at Billionaire Wedding,' and it blew up. People are trying to figure out who she is. There are theories ranging from secret heiress to professional dancer to your long-lost childhood sweetheart." "This is bad." "Maybe. Or maybe it's an opportunity." Before Adrian could ask what that meant, Sophia added, "I have to go. Court in 20. But Adrian, don't let the good ones go just because you're scared. You've already done that once with Natalie, and look how that turned out." "Natalie wasn't a good one." "Exactly my point." She hung up. Adrian immediately pulled up social media, found the video within seconds. There was Emily, green dress spinning, face lit up with joy, completely unself-conscious. The comments were a mix of people trying to identify her and people just appreciating the moment. Who is she? Imagine being this gorgeous and this talented. "I need her skincare routine, ASAP. Adrian Cole is a lucky man." Plot twist, she's actually his employee and this is a scandal waiting to happen. Adrian's jaw tightened at that last one. He kept scrolling, watching the video over and over, and each time he felt the same thing. That moment had been real. Whatever doubts Emily had now, whatever fears he had, that moment on the dance floor had been genuine. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, then changed his mind. "Hello? Is this Adrian Cole?" A woman's voice, professional, slightly apologetic. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Jennifer Martinez. I'm a producer at Morning Light. We're doing a segment on viral social media moments, and we'd love to interview you about the video from last night. Just a few questions about..." Adrian hung up. His phone immediately rang again, different number. He let it go to voicemail. By evening, he'd received 43 calls from various media outlets, news stations, and internet personalities. His email was full of interview requests. Someone had found out which hotel Emily was staying at, and there were reports of people showing up at the lobby trying to find her. Adrian called the hotel directly, asked to be connected to Emily's room. The front desk informed him she'd checked out that morning. "Did she leave a forwarding address?" "I'm sorry, sir, I can't share that information." "This is Adrian Cole. I'm the one who booked the room." "I understand, Mr. Cole, but our privacy policy..." He hung up. Tried her cell. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again an hour later, same thing. By midnight, Adrian was pacing his living room, alternating between calling Emily and searching social media for any sign of her. The video had hit 10 million views. Someone had created a Twitter account called @FindMysteryGirl dedicated to identifying her. The story had been picked up by actual news outlets, and Emily had disappeared. Sophia showed up the next morning with coffee and newspapers. She spread them across Adrian's kitchen counter. "You made the post," she said, pointing to a photo of him and Emily on the terrace. Someone had caught them through the window, her wearing his jacket, him looking at her like she was the only person in the world. The headline read, "Billionaire's Mystery Date. Who is she?" "There's more," Sophia continued, flipping through pages. "The Times has a piece speculating about your relationship status. Business Insider ran something about how this might affect your company image. And TMZ, because of course TMZ, has a whole investigative piece trying to track down Emily's background." "Did they find anything?" "Not yet. She's surprisingly hard to trace. No social media presence, no public records that match, nothing." Sophia looked at him. "It's like she doesn't want to be found." "She doesn't. Have you talked to her?" "She won't answer my calls. She checked out of the hotel. I don't know where she is." Sophia was quiet for a moment. "Adrian, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Is this about winning, about not letting her be the one who walked away?" "No. Because if it is, it's not." Adrian met her eyes. "I know what that feels like. This isn't it. I can't stop thinking about her. Can't stop wondering if she's okay, if she's safe, if she's regretting leaving as much as I'm regretting letting her go. This is me realizing I haven't felt this way about anyone in years, maybe ever. And I know it's fast and I know it's crazy, but it's real." Sophia studied him, then nodded. "Okay. So what's the plan?" "I don't have one." "Then let's make one." She pulled out her laptop. "First question. Do you know anything about Emily that could help us find her? Family, friends, previous addresses?" Adrian thought back to their conversations. "She has a sister. She mentioned her once when we were signing the contract, said her sister deserved to know where she was." "Name?" "She didn't say." "Great. What else?" "She used to work in graphic design. Lost her job about 2 years ago. She's been homeless since then, mostly staying in the area around my office." Adrian paused. "She reads constantly, classic literature. She was reading Jane Eyre the night I met her." "So she's educated, probably had a decent life before she lost it." Sophia was typing. "Any idea what caused the downfall?" "She never said, just that she'd been someone's charity case before and it didn't end well, which suggests a bad relationship or dependency situation." Sophia looked up. "Adrian, if we find her and she still doesn't want to see you, you have to respect that." "I know." "Do you? Because you have a tendency to bulldoze through problems with money and determination, and that won't work here." "I'm not trying to buy her, Sophia. I just want to know she's okay." "And if she is okay, but wants nothing to do with you?" Adrian didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. Sophia's phone rang. She glanced at it, frowned. "It's Marcus. Why is your lawyer calling me?" She answered. "What's up?" Adrian watched her expression change as she listened. When she hung up, she looked troubled. "Someone's trying to sell a story about Emily to the tabloids," she said. "Claims to have information about her past, where she came from, why she was homeless. Marcus got word through his media contacts." "Who?" "He doesn't know yet, but they're asking for 6 figures. Adrian's blood ran cold. If that story comes out, Emily becomes a public spectacle. Her privacy gets destroyed. Everything she's been through becomes entertainment." Sophia met his eyes. "We need to find her first." "How?" "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." 20 minutes later, Adrian was calling Victoria Ashford Chen, the woman from the wedding who'd tried to interrogate Emily. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding delighted. "Adrian, I was hoping you'd call. Everyone's talking about your mystery woman. You simply must tell me." "Victoria, I need a favor." "Of course, darling. Anything." "The woman I was with, Emily, she's being harassed by media. I need to find her before this gets worse, but she's not answering my calls. I was hoping you might have some contacts who could help locate her discreetly." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "You're serious about her?" "Yes. Even though she's... Well, I've heard the rumors about her background. I don't care about rumors. Clearly, Victoria sighed. All right, I'll make some calls. But Adrian, if I do this, you owe me, and I collect on my debts. Whatever you want. Be careful making promises like that. I might hold you to them. She hung up. Adrian looked at Sophia. Now what? He asked. Now we wait, and hope that Emily's sister exists and can be found before the tabloids find Emily first. The wait lasted 3 hours. Victoria called back with a name. Sarah Carter, living in a suburb 40 minutes outside the city. Social worker, married, 2 kids. Older sister to Emily Carter, who dropped off the grid 2 years ago after a bad breakup and job loss. Adrian had Sophia's investigator confirm the information. When he was sure it was legitimate, he got in his car and drove. Sarah Carter's house was modest, well-maintained, the kind of place where people had barbecues and borrowed cups of sugar. Adrian sat in his car outside for 10 minutes, trying to figure out what to say. Finally, he got out, walked up the path, knocked. A woman in her late 30s answered. She had Emily's eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked. "My name is Adrian Cole. I'm looking for your sister." Sarah's expression shuddered immediately. "I don't know where she is. Please. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just need to know she's okay." "Why?" "Because I care about her, and because there are people trying to sell stories about her to tabloids, and I want to stop them before they hurt her." Sarah studied him for a long moment. "You're the billionaire from the video." "Yes." "The one she was pretending to date." "It's not—" Adrian stopped. "It started as pretend. It became something else. And now you're here looking for her like some kind of white knight." "Now I'm here because I'm worried about her and I don't know where else to go." Sarah crossed her arms. "Emily called me 2 days ago. First time I'd heard from her in 6 months. You know what she said?" Adrian shook his head. "She said she met someone who made her feel like a person again. Someone who saw her instead of looking through her. She sounded happy. Actually happy, for the first time since everything fell apart." Sarah's eyes were hard. "Then she called again yesterday and said she'd made a mistake, that she'd let herself hope for something impossible, and now she needed to disappear before it got worse. So forgive me if I'm not jumping to help you find her." "I didn't mean to hurt her." "But you did. Because people like you always do. You swoop in, make promises, make her think maybe this time it'll be different. And then reality hits and you remember she doesn't fit in your world and you leave." "That's not what happened." "Then what did happen?" Adrian took a breath. "I fell for her. Completely, stupidly fell for her. And instead of telling her that clearly enough to make her believe it, I let her walk away because she said that's what she wanted. And now I can't stop thinking about how I should have fought harder. How I should have told her that I don't care about different worlds or what people think. How I should have said that the only thing that matters is that when I'm with her, I feel more like myself than I have in years." Sarah was quiet. "You mean that?" "Every word. She's going to think you're just saying it because she left. That you only want her because you can't have her. Then I'll spend however long it takes proving that's not true. You might not get the chance. Emily's good at disappearing when she needs to." "Please," Adrian said, "just tell me she's safe. That's all I need to know." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "She's staying with me. Has been since yesterday morning. She made me promise not to tell anyone, especially not you. Can I see her?" "That's not my decision to make." "Will you at least ask her? Tell her I'm here?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "Wait." She closed the door. Adrian stood on the porch, heart pounding, no idea what he'd say if Emily agreed to see him. No idea if she'd even... The door opened. Emily stood there, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt that had definitely seen better days, hair in a messy ponytail, no makeup. She looked exhausted and beautiful and real. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They stared at each other. Adrian's carefully prepared speech evaporated from his mind. "You found me," Emily said finally. "I had help." "I figured." She stepped out onto the porch, closed the door behind her. "Sarah's probably listening through the window anyway." "I heard that," Sarah called from inside. Emily almost smiled. Almost. "Why are you here, Adrian?" "Because I let you walk away and I shouldn't have." "I asked you to." "I know. And I'm asking you to give me another chance to say what I should have said that night." Adrian took a breath. You think I'm going to wake up one day and realize you don't fit in my life. But the truth is, my life hasn't fit me for years. I've been going through motions, checking boxes, being who everyone expected me to be. And then I met you and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to actually want something. Not because it made sense, not because it was strategic, but because it mattered. Emily's arms were wrapped around herself. Adrian, I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, I know we have 1,000 reasons why this shouldn't work, but I also know that I'd rather spend the rest of my life figuring out how to make it work than spend another day wondering what if. You don't know what you're asking for, Emily said quietly. My life is a mess. I don't have a job. I don't have a place to live. I don't have anything to offer you except everything I actually want. Adrian stepped closer. I don't need you to have a perfect life, Emily. I just need you to be willing to build one with me. What about Lily? What about her? She's 7. She's been through enough. She doesn't need her dad's girlfriend. She asked about you yesterday, asked when you were coming back, told me I was being dumb for not calling you. Emily blinked. She did? She's a smart kid, knows when something matters. Adrian paused. You matter, Emily. To me, to her. Maybe it's too soon to say that, maybe I'm moving too fast, but it's true. Emily looked down at her hands. The video's everywhere. People are trying to find out who I am. If they dig deep enough, they'll find out about everything, about how I lost my job, about the relationship that went bad, about living on the street. And when they do, it's going to reflect on you, on Lily. Then we deal with it together. You say that now, I'll say it tomorrow too. And the day after that. And the day after that. Adrian waited until she looked at him. Emily, I've spent years caring what people think, building an image, maintaining a reputation, being careful about everything. And you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired of careful. I'm tired of safe. I want real, even if real is messy, especially if real is messy. Tears were building in Emily's eyes. You're making this really hard. Good. I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to say the wrong thing at some fancy dinner or embarrass you in front of important people and I'm going to work too much and forget important dates and probably make you want to throw things at me on a regular basis. Adrian reached for her hand, stopped himself. We're both going to mess up. That's what people do. The question is whether we want to mess up together or separately. Emily laughed, wet and sharp. That's the worst romantic speech I've ever heard. Yeah? Yeah. She wiped her eyes. It's also kind of perfect. So is that a yes? She stopped, took a shaky breath. Maybe we can try. Maybe we can see what happens. Maybe we can take this one day at a time and figure it out as we go. I can work with maybe. They stood there on Sarah's porch, neither quite sure what came next. Finally, Emily said, I'm still staying here for a while with Sarah. I need some time to figure out what I want my life to look like before I jump into yours. Okay? And we need to talk to Lily. Really talk to her. Make sure she understands what's happening. Okay? And you need to stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like I'm something precious you're afraid of breaking. Adrian smiled. I'll try. Emily closed the distance between them, went up on her toes and kissed him. Not the careful goodbye from the car. This was real. Uncertain and hopeful and terrifying and right. When she pulled back, she said, One day at a time. One day at a time, Adrian agreed. The door behind them opened. Sarah stuck her head out. Are you two done having your moment? She asked. Because I made tea, and it's getting cold. Emily laughed, the sound bright and surprised. She took Adrian's hand, really took it, fingers threading through his, and pulled him toward the door. Come on, she said. Let's go have some tea, and you can explain to my sister exactly how you plan not to break my heart. No pressure, Sarah added. None at all, Emily agreed. Adrian followed them inside into the warm chaos of a real home, and thought that maybe, just maybe, this was what he'd been looking for all along. Sarah's kitchen was smaller than Adrian's walk-in closet, but it felt more alive. Kids' drawings covered the refrigerator, dishes sat in the sink waiting to be washed, and the tea Sarah poured came in mismatched mugs with chips around the rims. Adrian took his and sat at the worn table, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked in his expensive suit. "So," Sarah said, settling into a chair across from him while Emily leaned against the counter. "You're the billionaire." "I'm a billionaire," Adrian corrected. "There are several of us." How reassuring. Sarah's smile was sharp, protective. "And you want to date my sister?" "I want a lot more than that, but I'm trying not to scare her off." Emily snorted into her tea. "Too late." "Emily told me how you met," Sarah continued. "In an alley. She was reading and you were—" "What, exactly? Slumming?" "Sarah," Emily warned. "It's a fair question." Sarah's eyes never left Adrian's face. "Because from where I'm sitting, this looks like a rich guy having a crisis, finding someone vulnerable, and deciding she's the answer to whatever's missing in his life. And when the novelty wears off, she's the one who gets hurt." "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" Adrian set down his mug. "It's me meeting someone who called me out on my bullshit before she even knew who I was. Someone who read Jane Eyre in an alley because she refused to let circumstances kill the parts of herself that mattered. Someone who walked into a room full of people who should have intimidated her and owned it anyway." He looked at Emily. "It's me realizing that everything I thought I wanted was just expensive wrapping paper around emptiness." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "That's either very honest or very rehearsed." "It's honest." "We'll see." Sarah stood, refilled her mug. "Emily's been through hell. You know that, right? Not just the homeless part. Before that." "Sarah, he doesn't need to, Yes, he does." Sarah turned to Adrian. 2 years ago, Emily was engaged. Had a good job, nice apartment, whole life planned out. Then her fiancé decided she wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't making enough money, wasn't enough, period. He left her for his boss's daughter. 2 weeks later, Emily got laid off in a company restructuring. Lost her job, lost her apartment, lost everything. And instead of coming to me, instead of asking for help, she tried to handle it alone. "Because you had 2 kids and a mortgage," Emily said quietly. "I wasn't going to burden you with my mess. So you lived on the street for 2 years instead." "I survived. Barely." Sarah looked back at Adrian. "She called me twice in those 2 years. Twice. Both times to tell me she was fine, she was figuring it out, she didn't need help. And I believed her because I wanted to believe her, because it was easier than facing what was really happening." The guilt in Sarah's voice was thick enough to choke on. Emily pushed off the counter, went to her sister. "Stop," she said. "We've been through this. It wasn't your fault." "I should have known." "How? I lied to you every time we talked." "I'm your sister. I should have known anyway." Adrian watched them, saw the complicated knot of love and regret and survival that bound them together. It made him think of his own family, or lack thereof. Parents who'd died young, no siblings, just him and Lily against the world. "I don't want to be another person who hurts her," he said. Both women turned to look at him. "But I also can't promise I won't," Adrian continued. "I'm going to screw up. I'm going to say the wrong thing, or prioritize work when I shouldn't, or forget that not everyone grew up with money. What I can promise is that I'll try. And I'll listen when she tells me I'm being an idiot." "Which will be often," Emily added. "Probably." Adrian stood. "Look, I know you don't know me. You have no reason to trust me. But I'm asking anyway. Give me a chance to prove this is real." Sarah studied him for a long moment, then turned to Emily. "What do you want?" Emily looked surprised. "What do I want?" "Yeah. Not what you think you should want, not what's smart or safe or practical. What do you actually want?" Emily's hands tightened around her mug. "I want to stop being afraid." "Of what?" "Of this. Of him. Of the possibility that maybe this could work and I'll finally let myself be happy, and then it'll fall apart anyway." Emily's voice cracked slightly. "I want to believe that someone can actually see all my broken pieces and not run. But I don't know how to do that without being terrified." Adrian crossed the kitchen before he could think better of it, took the mug from Emily's hands and set it down, then pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for half a second before melting into him. "I'm not running," he said into her hair. "I'm right here. For now. For as long as you'll have me." Emily pulled back enough to look at him. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy, her nose running slightly. She looked nothing like the polished woman who danced at Natalie's wedding. She looked real. This is the part where you're supposed to kiss me, she said. I thought you didn't like predictable. I'll make an exception. So he kissed her, soft and careful, while Sarah made a disgusted noise and muttered something about getting cavities from all the sweetness. When they broke apart, Emily wiped her eyes and said, Okay, we can try, but we're doing this my way. Which means what? Which means I'm staying here for now. I need to find a job, get my own place, rebuild my life on my terms before I let you help. Emily held up a hand when Adrian started to protest. I know you want to swoop in and fix everything, but I need to do this myself. I need to know I can stand on my own before I let myself lean on you. How long? I don't know. A month? Maybe 2. However long it takes for me to feel like a person again instead of a project. Adrian wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she could stay at his place. He'd help her find a job. Money was no object. But the look in her eyes stopped him. This wasn't about pride. This was about survival. Okay, he said. Your way. Really? Really? But I'm taking you to dinner this weekend. Adrian. Not somewhere fancy, somewhere normal, somewhere we can talk without photographers or people recognizing us. Just dinner. That's all I'm asking. Emily looked at Sarah, who shrugged. It's your call, Sarah said. But for what it's worth, I think he means it. One dinner, Emily said finally. And you're paying because I'm broke. Deal. Adrian left an hour later after enduring Sarah's continued interrogation and meeting her kids, 6 and 8, full of questions about whether he really owned hotels and if he had a pool. He promised Lily would love to meet them sometime, then immediately wondered if that was overstepping. Emily walked him to his car. The sun was setting, painting the suburban street in shades of gold and amber. Normal people were coming home from normal jobs. Kids were playing in yards. Someone was grilling something that smelled amazing. Your sister hates me, Adrian said. She doesn't hate you. She's protecting me. By assuming I'm going to hurt you. Can you blame her? Emily leaned against his car. Everyone else has. I'm not everyone else. I know. That's what scares me. Emily tilted her head back, studied the sky. You asked what happened with my ex, the guy before. You don't have to. His name was Marcus. We met at work, dated for 3 years, got engaged. I thought we were happy. Then one day he sat me down and told me I was holding him back, that I wasn't ambitious enough, didn't want success badly enough, was too content with mediocrity. Emily's laugh was bitter. Turns out what he really meant was I wasn't rich enough. His new fiance's father owns half the commercial real estate in the city. Marcus is VP now. He was an idiot. Maybe. But he was also right about some things. I did get comfortable. I stopped pushing myself, stopped trying to grow. And when everything fell apart, I didn't have anything to fall back on because I'd built my whole life around him. That's not a character flaw, Emily. That's called being human. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like weakness. She turned to face him. I don't want to do that again. Don't want to build my life around someone else and then have nothing left when they leave. So don't, Adrian said. Build your life for yourself. I'll be nearby. Supporting from the sidelines, cheering you on. Is that enough for you? For now, yeah. Long term? He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Long term, I want everything. But I can wait. Emily caught his hand, held it against her cheek for a moment. You're making it really hard to keep my walls up. Good. Your walls are exhausting. They've kept me alive. I know, but maybe now you can start living instead. They stood there in the fading light, holding on to each other like lifelines. Finally, Emily stepped back. Go home to your daughter, she said. I'll see you this weekend. Friday night, 7 o'clock. It's a date. Adrian drove home feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He found Lily in the living room with Carla, working on homework that looked suspiciously like it had been abandoned in favor of drawing. Daddy! Lily launched herself at him. Did you find Emily? I did. Is she coming over? Not tonight, but maybe soon. Adrian sat down on the couch, pulled Lily onto his lap. Can we talk about something? Lily's face got serious. Am I in trouble? No, Bug. Nothing like that. Emily and I are going to spend some time together, like dating, and I wanted to make sure you were okay with that. Are you going to marry her? What? No, not. We just started. Adrian stopped, took a breath. We're taking things slow, Lily. Getting to know each other. But yeah, I like her. A lot. And she likes you? I think so. I hope so. Lily studied him with those two knowing eyes. Do you love her? I don't know yet. Maybe. Is that okay? Will she be nice to me? Yes. Absolutely yes. Will she try to be my mom? Adrian's chest tightened. No, sweetheart. Nobody's trying to replace your mom. Emily would just be... She'd be Emily, someone who cares about both of us. Lily thought about that for a minute. Okay, she said finally, but if she's mean to you, I'm going to be mean to her. Adrian laughed, kissed the top of her head. Deal. The next few days passed in a strange limbo. Adrian went to work, handled calls, sat through meetings, and didn't absorb a single word anyone said. He was too busy thinking about Friday night, too busy trying to plan the perfect date that wasn't too fancy or too casual, too busy second-guessing everything. Sophia caught him staring at his phone for the 15th time on Thursday afternoon. Just call her, she said. I'm not calling her. You've picked up your phone 9 times in the last hour. I'm busy. You're pathetic. Sophia sat down across from his desk. How's the planning going? I've made reservations at 4 different restaurants and canceled 3 of them. Where are you taking her? That little Italian place on 5th, the one that's been there forever. Good choice. Intimate without being pretentious. Sophia paused. You're nervous. I'm not nervous. You're terrified. Adrian set down his phone. What if I screw this up? You will screw it up. Multiple times, probably. The question is whether you'll screw it up so badly she leaves, or just badly enough that you have to grovel and apologize. That's not comforting. It's realistic. Adrian, you're a good person. Kind of an idiot about emotions, but good. And Emily's smart enough to know that. She's also smart enough to call you on your crap when you need it, which you do, frequently. Thanks. You're welcome. Sophia stood. Now stop obsessing and go do some actual work. She's not going anywhere. Friday arrived. Adrian left work early, went home and changed clothes 3 times before Carla physically removed his phone and told him to stop texting Emily to confirm details. He picked Emily up from Sarah's house at exactly 7 o'clock, was relieved to see she was wearing jeans and a sweater instead of anything fancy. You look nice, he said. You look terrified. I'm not. Okay, maybe a little. Emily laughed, climbed into the car. Where are we going? It's a surprise. I hate surprises. You'll like this one. The restaurant was everything Adrian had hoped. Small, warm, the kind of place where the owner knew regulars by name. They were seated at a corner table, away from the main crowd. Emily looked around, taking it in. This is perfect, she said. Yeah? Yeah, I was half expecting you to take me somewhere with 17 forks and a dress code. I thought about it. Then I remembered you called that $500 champagne terrible. It was terrible. They ordered pasta for her, chicken for him, wine they actually both liked. The conversation flowed easier than Adrian expected. They talked about everything and nothing. Emily's search for jobs, Lily's latest school project, the viral video that was finally dying down, what books they'd read recently. I finished Jane Eyre, Emily said. Finally. Only took me 2 years. And? Still devastating, still beautiful, still makes me cry every time. You've read it before? 3 times. Some books you read once. Some books you read until you memorize them. Emily took a sip of wine. It's about someone who refuses to compromise herself for love or money or security. I guess I needed that reminder. That you shouldn't compromise? That I can have standards? That wanting someone to love me for who I am, not what I can do for them, isn't asking too much. Adrian set down his fork. It's not asking too much. Isn't it? Because the world seems pretty determined to prove otherwise. The world's wrong. Emily smiled, small and sad. Easy to say when you've never had to choose between your dignity and survival. You're right, I haven't, and I can't imagine how hard that must have been. Adrian reached across the table, took her hand. But you survived it. You kept reading, kept thinking, kept being yourself even when everything was trying to break you. That's not nothing, Emily. Feels like nothing sometimes. It's not. They sat there, hands linked across the table, while around them other couples talked and laughed and lived their normal lives. Adrian thought about how many times he'd sat in restaurants like this with Natalie, having conversations that felt performative, calculated. Nothing about this felt calculated. "Tell me about Lily's mom," Emily said suddenly. Adrian pulled back slightly. "Why?" "Because she's part of your life, part of who you are. And if we're doing this, really doing this, I should know." Adrian was quiet for a moment, gathering thoughts he usually kept buried. Her name was Claire. We met in college, got married young, too young probably. She got pregnant with Lily a year later and died from complications 2 years after that. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. That doesn't make it not hurt." "No," Adrian agreed. "It doesn't." He took a breath. Claire was brilliant, funny, driven, wanted to change the world. She would have made an amazing mother if she'd gotten the chance. Instead, I got to be both parents and probably screwed up half of what she would have done right. "I doubt that." "You haven't met Lily." "I have, and she's amazing, happy, confident, kind. That doesn't happen by accident." Adrian felt his throat tighten. "Sometimes I wonder what Claire would think of the choices I've made. The business, the money, the life we live now. She was never about wealth. She wanted to do good, make a difference. And here I am building luxury hotels for rich people. You employ thousands of people, provide jobs, benefits, careers. That's making a difference. That's justification. It's not the same thing." Emily was quiet for a moment. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you're carrying around guilt that doesn't belong to you. Claire died. That's tragic and unfair and horrible, but it's not your fault. And building a life after that, a good life, a successful life, that's not betraying her memory. That's honoring it." "How do you figure?" "Because she loved you enough to marry you, have a child with you, which means she wanted you to be happy. And happiness doesn't stop being allowed just because someone dies." Emily squeezed his hand. "Give yourself permission to move forward." Adrian stared at her, this woman who'd lost everything and somehow still had wisdom to spare. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. You just assumed homeless meant stupid." "I never—" "I'm teasing." Emily's smile was genuine, mostly. They finished dinner, walked out into the cool night air. Adrian didn't want the evening to end, but he also didn't want to push. Slow, he reminded himself. They were taking this slow. "Walk with me?" Emily asked. "Where?" "Anywhere. I've been cooped up at Sarah's for days. I need to move." So they walked. Through quiet streets, past closed shops, under streetlights that cast long shadows. Emily told him about growing up with Sarah, about their parents who died within a year of each other, about the life she'd had before everything fell apart. "I was happy once," she said. "Normal happy, not just surviving happy. Had friends, hobbies, a job I didn't hate. I went to book clubs and farmers markets. I worried about normal things like whether I was saving enough for retirement. You can have that again." "Can I?" "Because that person feels like someone I used to know, not someone I can become again." "Why not?" "Because 2 years on the street changes you. You don't just go back to worrying about retirement funds when you've spent months worrying about where your next meal comes from." They stopped at a small park, sat on a bench overlooking a pond that reflected city lights and broken fragments. "What do you want?" Adrian asked. "Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want?" Emily leaned back, stared up at the sky. "I want to wake up without being afraid. I want to do work that matters, even if it doesn't pay well. I want to read books just because I enjoy them, not because they're the only escape I have." She turned to look at him. "I want someone to know all the ugly parts of my story and stay anyway." "I'm staying." "You say that now. Us. I'll say it tomorrow too. And next week? And next month." Adrian shifted to face her fully. "Emily, I'm not perfect. I work too much. I'm bad at feelings. I'll probably make you want to throw things at me on a regular basis. But I'm not going anywhere. What if I'm not worth the effort? What if you are?" Emily laughed, wet and sharp. "You're relentless. Only about things that matter." She kissed him then, soft and searching, and Adrian felt something in his chest unfold. When she pulled back, she said, "I got a job interview. Tuesday." "That's amazing. Where?" "Small graphic design firm. They saw some of my old portfolio online, reached out. It's entry level, barely pays anything, but it's a start. You'll be incredible. You don't know that. Yeah, I do. They sat there until the park lights shut off, until Emily started shivering despite Adrian's jacket draped over her shoulders. He drove her back to Sarah's, walked her to the door like some awkward teenager. Thank you for tonight, Emily said. Thank you for giving me a chance. We're both idiots, you know that? Yeah, but at least we're idiots together. Emily smiled, kissed him once more, then disappeared inside. Adrian drove home feeling like the world had shifted slightly, like everything had rearranged itself into a pattern that finally made sense. The next week passed in a blur. Emily got the job, started the following Monday, came home exhausted and excited in equal measure. Adrian took her to dinner twice more, both times at places where they could actually talk instead of performing. Lily met Emily officially, decided she was acceptable after Emily admitted she'd never read Harry Potter, and could Lily please explain all 7 books in detail? She talks a lot, Emily said later after Lily had gone to bed. She takes after her father. You barely talk. I'm making an exception for you. Things weren't perfect. Emily had nightmares sometimes, woke up thinking she was back on the street. Adrian worked late too often, forgot to text, had to cancel plans twice for business emergencies. They argued about money. Adrian wanted to help with rent. Emily refused. They compromised on him paying for dates while she saved for her own place. But they were real. Messy and complicated and real. 3 weeks after their first official date, the tabloid story about Emily's past finally broke. Someone had tracked down her ex, gotten quotes about her failure to commit to success, found photos of her from before. The article was cruel, sensationalized, designed to make her look like a gold digger who'd conned her way into Adrian's life. Adrian found out about it when Marcus called, furious. Have you seen this? Marcus demanded. Seen what? Check your email. Some trash site published a hit piece on Emily. They're framing it like she's using you for money, including her history with... Adrian hung up, pulled up the article. Read it once, felt his blood pressure spike, read it again to make sure he wasn't missing anything. Then he called his lawyer. I want them sued into oblivion, he said when the lawyer answered. Adrian, this is protected speech. They didn't actually libel her. They just find a way. They're harassing someone I care about, and I want it stopped. That's not how the law works. Then make it work. He hung up, called Emily. She answered on the 5th ring, voice thick. You saw it, Adrian said. Hard to miss when everyone I work with has seen it. Emily's laugh was hollow. My boss pulled me aside this morning, asked if I needed time off to deal with the media attention, like I'm some kind of liability. This is my fault. I should have protected you better. How? By making me sign an NDA about my own life? Emily was quiet for a moment. Adrian, this is what I was afraid of. This is exactly what I knew would happen. They dug up every mistake I've ever made and turned it into entertainment. So we fight back. We issue a statement. We do nothing, because responding just makes it worse. Trust me, I've lived through this before with Marcus. The more you react, the bigger the story gets. I can't just sit here and let them trash you. You don't have a choice. This is my mess to handle. Emily took a shaky breath. I need some space, okay? Just for a few days, to figure out how to deal with this without dragging you further into it. Emily, no, please, I'm not breaking up with you. I'm not running away. I just need to breathe without feeling like the world is watching. Adrian wanted to argue, wanted to tell her they'd handle this together, that space was the last thing they needed. But the exhaustion in her voice stopped him. Okay, he said, but I'm here. The second you need me, I'm here. I know. She hung up. Adrian stood in his office, staring at his phone, feeling helpless in a way he hadn't felt since Claire died. Back then, all the money in the world couldn't save her, and now, all the money in the world couldn't protect Emily from people determined to tear her down. Sophia found him an hour later, still standing there. You okay? She asked. No. Want to talk about it? No. Going to anyway. Sophia sat down, waited until he looked at her. This isn't your fault. Feels like it is. Welcome to caring about someone. It's terrifying and you have no control, and it makes you want to punch things. But it's also worth it. Is it? Because right now it feels like I've made everything worse for her. She knew the risks. She chose this anyway. Sophia paused. Give her the space she asked for. Trust her to know what she needs. And if what she needs is to walk away, then you let her go and hope she comes back. Adrian didn't sleep that night. Or the next. He threw himself into work, took meetings he'd normally delegate, stayed at the office until midnight every night. Lily noticed, asked why he was grumpy all the time. He told her he was tired, which wasn't a lie. On the third day, Emily called. Can you come over? She asked. To Sarah's? No, I got an apartment. It's tiny and mostly empty, but it's mine. Come see it? Adrian was in his car within 5 minutes. The apartment was in an older building, 4th floor walk-up, 1 bedroom with a kitchen the size of a closet. But it had good light and Emily had already filled it with books, stacks of them everywhere, covering every surface. I went a little crazy at the used bookstore, she admitted, but they were cheap and I've missed having books around me. Adrian looked around, taking it in. This was hers, her space, her choices, her life rebuilt piece by piece. It's perfect, he said. It's a shoebox. It's yours. Emily smiled, real and tired. I'm not running away. I know. But I'm also not going to apologize for existing, for having a past, for making mistakes, for being human. She crossed the small space to him. That article was brutal. It brought up things I've spent years trying to move past, but it also reminded me that I survived all of it, and I'll survive this too. We'll survive it. Yeah, Emily said, we will. She kissed him, and Adrian tasted salt. Tears, though he wasn't sure whose. When she pulled back, she said, I'm scared. Of what? Of how much I want this to work, of how much I care about you, of what happens if it all falls apart anyway. Then we'll be scared together. Is that enough? I don't know, but it's what we've got. They stood there in her tiny apartment, surrounded by books and possibility, and Adrian thought that maybe this was what real looked like. Not perfect, not easy, but worth fighting for. Stay, Emily said, just for a while. Help me figure out where to put furniture I don't have yet. So he stayed, and in that moment, that was enough. They sat on the floor of Emily's empty apartment, backs against the wall, sharing Chinese takeout from containers that left grease stains on the hardwood. Adrian had kicked off his expensive shoes, rolled up his sleeves, and for the first time in weeks looked like he could actually breathe. So, Emily said, picking at her low mane with chopsticks that kept slipping, I've been thinking. Dangerous. Shut up. She nudged him with her shoulder. I've been thinking about what normal looks like for us. Because this, sitting on the floor eating takeout, this feels more real than any fancy dinner ever could. You want more floor sitting? I want more real, less performance. Emily set down her container. The article that came out, it was awful. But it also forced me to stop hiding. Everyone knows now. My past, my mistakes, all of it. And you know what happened? What? Nothing. The world didn't end. My boss didn't fire me. My coworkers were actually nice about it, told me everyone has history. She turned to look at him. I spent 2 years being invisible, then 3 weeks being someone I wasn't. And now I'm just me. Messy, complicated, broke me. And it turns out that's okay. Adrian reached over, took her hand. More than okay. Yeah, well, don't let it go to your head. But she was smiling when she said it. I also talked to Sarah, really talked. Told her everything I should have told her 2 years ago. How'd that go? She cried. I cried. We both agreed we're terrible at asking for help. Emily paused. She wants to meet you properly. Not the interrogation version, the actual getting to know you version. I can do that. She's intense. I've met intense. I can handle your sister. Famous last words. They finished eating, threw away the containers, and Emily showed Adrian the apartment properly, which took all of 3 minutes since it was essentially one room with a bathroom attached. But she pointed out where she wanted to put a desk, where books would go, how she'd arranged the tiny kitchen to maximize space. I'm thinking plants, she said. Lots of them. Make it feel alive. You know how to keep plants alive? No, but I'll learn. That's what YouTube is for. Adrian laughed, pulled her close. She fit against him perfectly, head tucked under his chin, arms wrapped around his waist. They stood there in the fading light, and Adrian thought about how many moments like this he'd missed with Natalie. How they'd never just stood in silence, comfortable with each other, no need to fill the quiet with performance. "I need to tell you something," Emily said into his chest. "Okay. That video, the one from the wedding, I got a call about it." Adrian pulled back slightly. "What kind of call?" "A dance studio. They saw me in the video, looked me up, found out I used to take classes years ago before everything. They offered me a teaching position. Just beginner classes, 1 or 2 nights a week, but still." "Emily, that's amazing." "Is it? Because it pays almost nothing, and it means I'll be working 2 jobs just to make rent. So I'm already exhausted. I'm already barely keeping up. And you're standing here in your custom suit, probably thinking about how you could just write a check and solve all my problems." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "Is that what you think I'm thinking? Isn't it?" "No, I'm thinking about how you're rebuilding your life piece by piece on your terms, and how that takes more courage than anything I've ever done. I'm thinking about how most people would take the easy path, and you're choosing the hard one because it matters to you. And I'm thinking about how I can support that without making you feel like a project." Emily's eyes were wet. "Stop being perfect." "I'm not perfect. I'm just paying attention. Same thing." She wiped her eyes. "I'm taking the job. Both jobs. I'm going to be tired all the time and probably cranky, and we'll barely see each other, but I need to do this." "Then do it. I'll be here when you have time." "What if I don't have time for months?" "Then I'll wait months." "Adrian, I can't." "Emily." He cupped her face in his hands. "I'm not going anywhere. You need to do this for yourself. I get that. Take the jobs, build your life, figure out who you are outside of survival mode. I'll still be here." She kissed him, hard and desperate, and Adrian tasted salt and hope in equal measure. When she pulled back, she said, "I don't deserve you." "Pretty sure it's the other way around. We're both idiots." Established fact. They spent the rest of the evening planning where Emily would get cheap furniture, how she'd balance 2 jobs, what her schedule would look like. Adrian offered to help move furniture when she found it, offered to pick her up from late shifts, offered everything except money because he'd learned that's not what she needed from him. What she needed was someone who believed she could do it herself. And he did. 2 months passed. Emily worked herself half to death between the design firm and the dance studio, came home exhausted every night to her tiny apartment that slowly filled with life. She got plants, killed half of them, kept the other half alive through sheer stubbornness. She bought furniture from thrift stores, spent weekends refinishing pieces that didn't quite match, but were hers. Adrian saw her when he could, late dinners after her evening classes, early morning coffee before work, stolen afternoons when their schedules aligned. It wasn't enough, but it was real. They argued about stupid things like whose turn it was to pick the restaurant, had serious conversations about whether Adrian should tell his board about their relationship, laughed until they couldn't breathe at inside jokes nobody else would understand. Lily adored Emily, which was both a blessing and a complication. She asked constantly when Emily would come over, when they'd all do something together, why couldn't Emily just live with them so she'd be there all the time? "Because Emily has her own life, Bug," Adrian explained for the 15th time. "But she could have her life here." "It doesn't work like that." "Why not?" Good question. Adrian didn't have a good answer. The turning point came on a random Tuesday. Adrian was in his office, drowning in paperwork, when Sophia knocked. "Got a minute?" she asked. "Always. What's up?" Sophia closed the door behind her, sat down with an expression Adrian couldn't quite read. "I ran into someone yesterday. Natalie." Adrian's stomach tightened. And she asked about you, about Emily, about whether you were happy." Sophia paused. "Her marriage is falling apart. Harrison apparently has the emotional range of a tax form and the fidelity of an alley cat. She's filing for divorce." "That's... what? Sad? Satisfying?" Adrian wasn't sure what he felt. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" "Yeah, I wouldn't wish a bad marriage on anyone, not even her. She wanted me to tell you she made a mistake, that she chose wrong." Adrian sat back in his chair. 6 months ago, hearing that would have felt like vindication, like proof that he'd been right and she'd been wrong, and maybe there was still a chance to... Nothing. He felt nothing. "Tell her I hope she finds what she's looking for," Adrian said. "But it's not me." Sophia smiled. You really love her, don't you, Emily? Yeah, I really do. Have you told her? Not yet. Why not? Because I'm terrified. Adrian ran a hand through his hair. Because what if it's too soon? What if she's not ready? What if I say it and she runs? And what if you say it and she says it back? Adrian didn't have an answer for that. That night, he picked Emily up from her dance class. She was sweaty, hair falling out of its ponytail, grinning like she'd won the lottery. Good class? He asked. Amazing class. I had 8 students tonight, and one of them told me I'm the best teacher she's ever had. Emily collapsed into the passenger seat. I know that's probably not true, but still, it felt good. It is true. You're biased. Doesn't make it less true. They drove to Emily's apartment, climbed the 4 flights of stairs. Adrian had stopped offering to find her a place with an elevator, and collapsed on her couch that she'd found on Craigslist and reupholstered herself. I'm exhausted, Emily announced. I can go if you want to sleep. Don't you dare. She curled into his side. This is the first time I've sat down all day. Just stay. Be quiet. Let me pretend the world doesn't exist for 20 minutes. So Adrian stayed, held her while she dozed, watched her chest rise and fall, thought about how this right here, was everything he'd been looking for without knowing it. When Emily woke up an hour later, she blinked at him groggily. Did I fall asleep? Yeah. Sorry, I'm the worst girlfriend. You're the best girlfriend. I fell asleep on our date. We weren't on a date. I was just driving you home. Still, Emily sat up, rubbed her eyes. I'm a mess, Adrian. I work too much. I'm always tired. I barely have time for you. This isn't what you signed up for. Yes, it is. How do you figure? Because I signed up for you. All of you. The exhausted version. The energetic version. The version that falls asleep mid-conversation. All of it. Emily looked at him for a long moment. You make it sound simple. It is simple. I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Emily's eyes went wide. What? I love you, Adrian repeated, because if he was going to do this, he was going to do it right. I love that you work yourself half to death because you're too stubborn to take the easy path. I love that you killed half your plants but refuse to give up on the other half. I love that you fall asleep on me and apologize like it's a character flaw instead of just being human. I love you, Emily. All of you. Adrian, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Emily launched herself at him, kissing him hard enough that they both fell backwards on the couch. When she finally pulled back, she was crying and laughing at the same time. You're an idiot, she said. Established fact. I love you too. I've loved you since you showed up at Sarah's house, looking terrified and determined and completely out of your depth. Emily kissed him again, softer this time. I didn't think I was allowed to love you. Didn't think I deserved it. You deserve everything. See, that's the kind of statement that makes me think you're still seeing me through some kind of noble lens. I'm seeing you clearly. Maybe for the first time in my life, I'm seeing someone clearly. They stayed on that couch for hours, talking about everything they'd been too scared to say before. Emily admitted she'd been terrified he'd get bored of her once the novelty wore off. Adrian admitted he'd been terrified she'd realize she could do better. They were both wrong, they decided, and both right. And that was okay. Around midnight, Emily's phone rang. She glanced at it, frowned. It's Sarah. She never calls this late. Emily answered. Hey, oh no. Okay, yeah, okay. She hung up, her face pale. What's wrong? Adrian asked. Sarah's husband, he's in the hospital, heart attack. She needs someone to watch the kids, and I'm the only... Go, I'll drive you. Adrian, it's midnight. You have work tomorrow. I don't care, come on. They made it to the hospital in 20 minutes. Sarah was in the waiting room, shaking, trying to hold it together for her kids who were asleep on plastic chairs. When she saw Emily, she broke. I don't know what's happening, Sarah said. They won't tell me anything. He was fine at dinner, and then he just... It's okay. It's going to be okay. Emily held her sister while Adrian took care of the practical things, talked to nurses, made phone calls, arranged for Sarah's kids to go home with Emily. By 3 a.m., they knew Sarah's husband would survive. By 4 a.m., Emily and Adrian were back at her apartment with 2 sleeping kids on her couch/bed and no idea what they were doing. I don't know how to take care of children, Emily whispered. Neither do I. You have a child. One child, who I've been practicing on for 7 years. These are borrowed children. It's different. Emily laughed, quiet and slightly hysterical. What are we doing? Our best. That's all we can do. They made it through the night. In the morning, Adrian called work and told them he wouldn't be in. Emily called both her jobs and explained the situation. They took Sarah's kids to school, picked them up after, kept them entertained while Sarah stayed at the hospital with her husband. It went on for a week. Emily and Adrian tag-teaming childcare, figuring it out as they went, learning that kids needed constant supervision and feeding and emotional support. Lily joined them halfway through when Adrian ran out of excuses for why he kept missing bedtime. Are these my cousins now? Lily asked, studying Sarah's kids with interest. They're Emily's niece and nephew, Adrian said carefully. But if you marry Emily, they'll be my cousins. Lily, I'm just saying, it's basic math. Emily laughed so hard she cried. Adrian decided his daughter was both too smart and not wrong. Sarah's husband came home after 10 days. Emily and Adrian helped get him settled, made sure Sarah had what she needed, then finally, had an evening to themselves. They went to Adrian's place for the first time in weeks. Lily was at a friend's house for a sleepover, leaving the penthouse empty and quiet. Emily stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city that had almost destroyed her and was now becoming home again. Thank you, she said, for the last week, for everything. You don't have to thank me. Yeah, I do. You dropped everything to help my family. You didn't have to do that. They're your family, which makes them important to me. Adrian joined her at the window. Emily, I've been thinking. Always dangerous. Move in with me. Emily turned to look at him. What? Move in. You and me and Lily. Make this real. Stop splitting our time between two places and just be together. Adrian, I can't. Why not? Because I just got my apartment. I just rebuilt my independence. I can't give that up to move into your place like some. Then I'll move into yours. Emily blinked. You can't be serious. Completely serious. It's tiny and the stairs are brutal and I'll have to get rid of most of my stuff. But if that's what it takes. Stop. Emily held up a hand. You're not giving up your home, your daughter's home. That's insane. Then what do you want? I don't know. Emily's voice cracked. I don't know, Adrian. I love you. I want to be with you. But I also need to know I can stand on my own. That if everything fell apart tomorrow, I'd survive. You would survive. You've already proved that. Have I? Because from where I'm standing, I'm one bad month away from being back where I started. That's not true, isn't it? I'm working 2 jobs that barely cover rent. I've got maybe $500 in savings. If my car breaks down or I get sick or literally anything goes wrong, I'm screwed. Emily sat down on the couch, head in her hands. I want to move in with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and have family dinners with Lily and build a life together. But I'm terrified that if I do, I'll lose myself again. Adrian sat next to her, took her hand. What if you didn't have to choose? What do you mean? What if you kept your apartment, kept your independence, your safety net, your proof that you can stand alone, but also stayed here sometimes? Let this be our place without giving up yours. That's expensive and impractical and probably a terrible idea financially, Adrian finished. But I don't care about practical. I care about you feeling safe enough to let yourself be happy. Emily looked at him, eyes red. You do that? Just to make me feel better? I do a lot more than that. Why? Because I love you. Because your happiness matters more than efficiency. Because I'd rather have you part-time and secure than full-time and terrified. Emily kissed him, soft and sweet and full of things she couldn't say. When she pulled back, she said, Okay. Okay? Okay, let's try it. Your way. I keep my place, stay here sometimes. We figure it out as we go. She paused. But if I leave my toothbrush here, you can't make a big deal about it. I'm going to make a huge deal about it. I know, that's what worries me. They fell into a rhythm after that. Emily kept her apartment, but most of her clothes migrated to Adrian's closet. She kept her independence, but most of her evenings ended in his living room. She kept her safety net, but slowly started to believe she might not need it. Lily adjusted faster than anyone expected. She loved having Emily around, loved the dance lessons Emily taught her in the living room. Loved how Emily read books with different voices, just like her dad did. Sometimes Adrian would find them curled up together on the couch, Lily chattering away while Emily listened with genuine interest. "She's good with her," Sophia observed one evening, watching through the window as Emily and Lily attempted some complicated dance move in the living room. "She's good with everyone," Adrian said. "You're disgustingly happy. It's disturbing." "Sorry. Don't be. It's about time." Sophia took a sip of her wine. "For what it's worth, I like her. She calls you on your bullshit, she makes you laugh, and she clearly loves Lily. That's the trifecta. High praise coming from you. Don't let it go to your head." 6 months after the wedding, almost a year after that night in the alley, Adrian and Emily were at a charity gala. The kind of event Adrian usually dreaded, full of people performing wealth and importance. But Emily made it bearable, stood beside him in a dress she'd bought herself, made jokes about the canapes, talked to strangers about their actual lives instead of their net worth. They were standing at the bar when Natalie appeared. She looked different, thinner, tired, the kind of exhausted that came from stress instead of circumstance. Her divorce was public now, splashed across tabloids that had moved on from Emily's story to hers. "Adrian," she said, "can we talk?" Emily stiffened slightly. Adrian squeezed her hand. "Sure," he said. They moved to a quiet corner while Emily stayed at the bar, giving them space but staying close enough to intervene if needed. "You look happy," Natalie said. "I am. With her. The woman from the wedding." Emily, "Yes." Natalie was quiet for a moment. "I made a mistake, leaving you, choosing Harrison. All of it. I know. Do you ever think about—" "No." Adrian said it gently but firmly. "Natalie, I hope you find happiness. Really, I do. But it's not with me. That ship sailed a long time ago." "Because of her?" "Because of me. Because I finally figured out what I actually want instead of what I thought I should want." Adrian glanced back at Emily, who was pretending not to watch them. "She's it for me. Everything I didn't know I was looking for." Natalie followed his gaze. "She's nothing like what I expected for you." "Good. I was tired of expected. I really did love you, in my own way. I know. But your way wasn't enough, and that's okay. We both deserve better than enough." Natalie nodded, eyes wet. "Be happy, Adrian. You deserve it." "You too." She walked away. Adrian went back to Emily, who was trying very hard to look casual. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, you." "I'm perfect. Although if she tries anything, I'm prepared to throw this very expensive champagne in her face. And waste $500 worth of terrible alcohol? It would be worth it." Adrian laughed, pulled her close. "I love you." "I love you too. Even though you keep dragging me to these things." "You're the one who said yes." "Moment of weakness. Won't happen again." "Liar." They danced later, swaying in the ballroom while around them other couples performed their rehearsed lives. But Adrian and Emily were just themselves, imperfect, real, stumbling slightly because neither of them was any good at formal dancing. "I keep thinking about that first night," Emily said, "in the alley, when you asked if I wanted to make $10,000. Worst pickup line in history. Best thing that ever happened to me." Emily rested her head against his chest. "I was so angry at the world, so tired of fighting, and then you showed up and gave me a reason to keep going." "I didn't do anything. You saw me. When everyone else looked right through me, you stopped and saw me." Emily looked up at him. "That matters more than you know. For what it's worth, you saved me too." "From what?" "From a life that looked perfect but felt empty. From thinking money and success and image were what mattered. From forgetting what it felt like to actually care about someone." Adrian kissed her forehead. "You reminded me how to be human. We're both disasters. The best kind of disasters." The music changed to something faster. Around them, couples shifted into more energetic movements. Emily grinned. "Want to show these people how it's really done?" she asked. "Absolutely not." "Come on, live a little." So they did. They danced like nobody was watching, even though everyone definitely was. They laughed when Emily spun too fast and nearly took out a waiter. They didn't care that they were making a scene, that people were recording, that tomorrow there'd be more articles and more speculation. They were too busy being happy. A year later, Adrian proposed. Not at a fancy restaurant or some choreographed event, But in Emily's tiny apartment, surrounded by books and half-dead plants, and evidence of a life rebuilt from nothing. "This is insane," Emily said, staring at the ring. "You keep saying that." "Because it keeps being true." She looked up at him. "Are you sure? Because I'm still figuring things out. I'm still working 2 jobs and barely making ends meet, and I love you exactly as you are. Not who you might become, not some polished version. You, right now, this." Adrian took her hands. "Marry me. Not because it makes sense, not because it's practical, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it." Emily was crying, laughing, trying to do both at once. "Yes, yes, you idiot. Of course, yes." They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Sarah stood as Emily's maid of honor, still protective, but warming up to Adrian after watching him prove himself over and over. Lily was the flower girl, took her job incredibly seriously, and told everyone who would listen that she'd predicted this from the beginning. Sophia gave a speech that made everyone cry, including herself, about how sometimes the best things in life are the ones you don't plan for. And when Adrian and Emily exchanged vows, real ones they'd written themselves, full of promises to be patient and honest and human, neither of them could stop smiling. Because this wasn't a fairy tale. It was better. It was real. Emily kept her job at the design firm, got promoted after a year. She kept teaching dance classes because they made her happy, not because she needed the money. She kept her apartment for another 6 months before finally admitting she hadn't stayed there in weeks, and maybe it was time to let it go. Adrian learned to leave work at reasonable hours, to prioritize family over deals, to understand that the best investments weren't always financial. He still worked too much sometimes, still forgot important dates occasionally, still drove Emily crazy with his tendency to try to fix everything. But they figured it out together. Lily grew up with Emily as a constant presence, not replacing her mother, but adding something new. She learned to dance, learned to stand up for herself, learned that family came in all different shapes, and sometimes the best ones were the ones you chose. As for Natalie, her story had a different ending. The divorce was messy, public, everything she'd been trying to avoid. But somewhere in the wreckage, she found herself, started over, built something real instead of something impressive. The last Adrian heard, she was happy, and he was genuinely glad for her. Because that's what happened when you stopped measuring life by what you had and started measuring it by who you were. Emily and Adrian's story wasn't about a billionaire saving a homeless woman. It was about 2 broken people finding each other at exactly the right moment, when they were both ready to stop performing and start living. It was about learning that worth isn't measured in bank accounts or addresses or how you look on paper. It was about choosing real over easy, messy over perfect, love over image. And in the end, that made all the difference. Sometimes late at night, when Lily was asleep and the city was quiet, Adrian and Emily would stand at those floor-to-ceiling windows and look out at the world that had almost destroyed them both. Emily would think about the alley, the cold nights, the desperate choice to take a chance on a stranger's crazy offer. Adrian would think about the wedding invitation, the anger that had driven him, how revenge had turned into something infinitely better. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd kept walking that night?" Emily asked once. "Every day." And I'm grateful I didn't. Even if the reason was wrong, the result was right. That's very philosophical for someone who deals in quarterly earnings. I'm learning from the best. Emily leaned into him, watching the lights of the city spread out below them like stars. Somewhere down there, other people were struggling, surviving, fighting their own battles against circumstance and fear and the weight of impossible choices. She thought about how close she'd come to giving up completely, how many nights she'd wondered if it was worth it to keep trying. It was worth it. Every cold night, every empty stomach, every moment of despair, all of it had led here, to this moment, to this man, to this life she'd built from ruins. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." And in that simple exchange, repeated thousands of times over thousands of days, was everything that mattered. Not the money or the success or the fairy tale ending, just 2 people choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Because that's what real love looked like. And it was worth every stumble, every scar, every moment of doubt along the way.